This episode of Still Loading is brought to you by the wonderful people on Patreon. Amazing people like Mr. Biscuits, Gilmer, Eric H., Kevin from the Bit by Bit Foundation, Matt, aka Stormageddon, and Stephen P. have been wonderful enough to support the show over there, so if you would also like to get your name read at the beginning of the episode, along with a bunch of other goodies, please go over to patreon.com/stillloadingpod and check out everything it has to offer. On this episode of Still Loading, the Final Fantasy Draft 2024. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today it is the annual Final Fantasy Draft. It is the third one we are doing, and I have four wonderful new guests duking it out to create the best or the most ideal Final Fantasy that they can, competing against each other. And of course, listeners, for those who are new to this, or if you don't remember from last year, at the end of the episode, they will pitch their Final Fantasy to you, and you, the listener, will get to vote as to who drafted the best Final Fantasy. I will include a link in the show notes as well as plaster it all over social media. So just a reminder for that. Before we get into any of the specifics with the rule changes for this year's draft, let's get into our guests. Let's start off with the new guest. First-time guest to the show. Starting off is Meg Sullivan. Meg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm ready for this. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you for setting aside some time for this. I've been looking forward to this since I've booked everyone. I'm really excited about this. So for my listeners who don't know you, what do you do online and what is your relationship with Final Fantasy?
Okay, so my name is Megan Sullivan. Some of you might know me because I spent over a decade at IGN. I reviewed a lot of Final Fantasy games and Square Enix games and whatnot. And I'm now on the video game consulting side of things, but I run a podcast called History in Games, like Guns N' Roses, in which I talk about video games and relate them back to really cool, very real history, which you can find on History in Games on YouTube, and there's a website, and all of it is good. And I have played Final Fantasy from the very beginning. So we are talking all the way back into, when was it published in the US? I remember we played it in 1990. My sister actually got a copy of it. And I've played almost every Final Fantasy since.
You have more expertise than I. That's why I bring all of these wonderful guests on. Like, this actually started because I considered myself more a fan of Final Fantasy more than an expert. So I'm like, well, I like this draft idea, but I don't know Final Fantasy well enough to draft my own one. And now I'm at the point now, I'm just like, anyone who's a fan, it doesn't matter how many games you've played, but I'm glad we have a bona fide expert to draft their ideal Final Fantasy. And I actually found you through your History in Games podcast, because I actually, besides being a fan of video games, I'm a fan of history in general and video game history. And I actually had a guest on my show. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but just going to shout them out now. I'm going to have to find that episode again. I had two authors on. They kind of like organized a book. Doctors Jane Draycott and Kate. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Kate Cook, and they had a book. I interviewed them back in 2022 for their book, Women in Classical Video Games, talking about the portrayal of women in games that take place in antiquity, you know, like Assassin's Creed or any medieval setting game type of thing. So they were talking about the historical of it. So when I saw what your podcast is, I was like, oh, that's like right up my alley. So I've been listening to a few episodes.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And Kate Cook does sound familiar. I was just in a academic conference. I'm trying to think if she was there, called Hit Points in History. And that name sounds really familiar. But yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up.
Her and Jane are awesome. They did that. I could not unfortunately afford their book because it's literally like a textbook. It's meant for like academia and stuff like that. So it was like over $100. I'm like, I want more people to know about this, but I don't have the budget for this right
Yeah,
now.
academic books are really expensive.
Yeah,
They're worth it though. They're so fascinating. So if you can't afford it, go for it. But the next best thing is having them on your show. So love it.
agreed, agreed. Now moving on to our other first time guest, we have Bill Tucker from A Gamer Looks at 40. Bill, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've never been invited to a draft before. Not even like a draft party. Like with friends and human beings. This is a new experience. So thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem. And for those who don't know about A Gamer Looks at 40, why don't you give my listeners a little primer on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, A Gamer Looks at 40 is a podcast that is I like to think of it as an oral history of the history of video games as told through the stories and recollections of the people who lived it. So, rather than talking about, nuts and bolts of a game or reviews, I like to talk about people's personal experiences and emotional connections to all these various games and series and franchises. And when the show is hitting on all cylinders, that's what it's doing. So, and because I feel like any art, any medium, books or music or movies, we have emotional connections to games in a very special way, and those are the kind of connections I like to chat about on my show. Currently in the middle of a huge Final Fantasy series. I am doing one or many episodes on every mainline Final Fantasy game. And
Hmm.
in the middle, as of this recording, I'm middle of a Final Fantasy VI that's going to be at least 5 episodes. So
Dear
it's
God.
yeah, I've about 100 or so clips of interviews to go through, a variety of people. It's wild. So, but it's all people talking about their personal experiences with games because you can't argue someone's personal experience. You can argue with
Mhm.
someone's review or opinion, but personal experience is something that's usually untouchable. So that's what I try to do on the show.
I love your podcast, man. I was on it for I don't I guess if any of my clips make the cut, it'll be in the next game because I think you interviewed me for Final Fantasy 7 through 9.
Yes.
But I found your podcast beforehand. I love what you do. I love how you like do all these interviews and then find almost like narratives and through lines that kind of that kind of occur in every single interview. It's a lot of work. I got to tell you, like I don't know how you do all that. It's so
I don't
much
know
work.
either, to be perfectly honest. I ask myself that all the time. Like, how is this happening with full-time job and 2 kids and all the rest of it? But yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I just like those personal stories. I don't think they're talked about enough. So yeah, that's what I try to do.
All right, now we're moving on to returning guests who have been on the show before, but they've never been on a Final Fantasy draft. Starting it off with, well, both of them are from different podcasts involving backlogs. We're going to start off with Dave from Tales from the Backlog. Dave, how are you doing tonight?
What's up, Josh? Thanks for the invite for the yearly fantasy draft. I really enjoy listening to these all the time, so it's great to be here on in the seat on the in the draft room, as it were.
I'm happy to have you on, man. Uh, I'm always trying to get some of like, our little podcast circle. I always try to pick at least one friend from there and then, just so that way I can kind of everyone gets to participate at least once. So thank you for coming on. And I mean, my listeners should know who like what your podcast is because you've been on the show before. But for any new listeners, what is Tales from the Backlog?
Yeah, Tales from the Backlog is a weekly backlog games deep dive review podcast. Every week, I deep dive a different game with a different guest. And I guess the thing about my show that I want people to know is that we have a hard spoiler wall in the middle of the show every single time. So if you have not played a game, you can listen to the show and then just jump out when we warn you that spoilers are coming every time. And there have been many Final Fantasy games on the show: 6, 9, 10, 10 2, 7 remake, 16, and then upcoming episodes about 4 and 7 rebirth as well. So lots of Final Fantasy over there if people want an easy entry point.
I highly recommend the show, listeners. One of my favorite podcasts out there. I always look forward to the episodes, especially when it's a game that I'm really intimately familiar with, because I love you and your guest, how you analyze and break stuff down. Can't recommend it enough. But last but not least, another the backlog bro, as I call it, no, part of the backlog bros, as it were, Adam from The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog. Adam, how are you doing today?
I am so excited. I'm jittering with excitement. I can't wait to do this, and I'm so happy that I was invited to do this because I can't even speak properly. That's how excited I am.
Well, it's funny because like we first really got to like legitimately interact a couple weeks ago when we recorded. I mean, the episode will be out by the time this comes out, but the Astral Chain episode, the Patreon voted
Yes.
Astral Chain episode, and then I brought it up to you that I'm like, yeah, I'm still looking for a fourth guest. I can't really find someone to lock it in, and you're like, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and here you are. So
Yeah.
welcome,
Thank you very
and
much.
tell the listeners about The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog.
There's not much to tell, really. It's like a really juvenile, crude podcast about myself and my co-host who's in the UK. I'm in Australia. We are just trying to like knock games out of our backlog, and it started during COVID as a little side project and has continued on. It's very mediocre and unpopular, but hell, it's fun. And
I mean, not with that attitude. Or
well,
with that attitude, it is. You gotta fluff those. I don't know where I'm going with this. You got to be more positive.
to be honest, it's probably on its last legs, but it's still a lot of fun to do. And yeah, it's kind of like I like to think of it more as like trash TV. It's not to be taken seriously. Half the time, I don't know what I'm going to say before I say it, so I need to edit very heavily because I always put my foot in my mouth. Sometimes I leave it in, whatever. But yeah, it's fun. So I just do that, and of course, got to give a shout out to King of Games, Cog. It's something that I'm doing as one of the hosts of on the Retro Hangover podcast, which you have been a guest on, and yeah, it's just a hell of a lot of fun. So if anything you're going to check out, don't check out my show. Check out Retro Hangover and the King of Games.
For those, and actually, Chris from Retro Hangover, one of the hosts of Retro Hangover, was on the original Final Fantasy Draft. And yes, everyone, check out King of Games. It's a bracket style tournament right now. I believe King of Games 96 is happening on. I think it will continue to happen by the time this episode comes out. It's over on the Retro Hangover feed. Basically, you pit two games up from a specific year. The one happening right now is 1996, and they graded on a bunch of criteria. And as we've learned from Whose Line Is It Anyway, the points don't matter. What really matters is the guests at the end determine which game is more of a game, like which game is more 1996 than the other, and whichever one gets that moves on to the next bracket, and so on and so forth. But you have to really listen to it to get to appreciate it in full.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
Okay, so now that we have our panelists all introduced, and you should all go check out their individual work, I will include all of their stuff in the show notes, so please make sure you go check that out. We are going to begin the draft. For those who do not know how the draft works, very long story short, it's basically you take fantasy sports and mix it up with Final Fantasy. We have 16 different categories. So, in fantasy sports, you're drafting positions, running back, wide receiver, whatever position you want to think of for your specified sport or preferred sport. I was just using football there, American football as an example. But there's 16 different categories. And so there's 4 of them are party members. The first 4 are party members. Then you have your main villain, your secondary villain, your ultra boss, your battle system, your world/setting, your console, your soundtrack, your mini game, your plot twist, your summon, which Sid is in your Final Fantasy, and which vehicle is in your Final Fantasy. And once someone picks a pick, no one else can have it, just like you would in a sports fantasy draft. So if someone wants Cloud as one of their main party members, no one else can have Cloud as one of their main party members. If someone wants to have the Super Nintendo as their console for their Final Fantasy, no one else can have Super Nintendo as their console for their Final Fantasy, so on and so forth. The changes in the rules from last year. One new thing is the flex rule and limit break. The flex rule, for those who I should just repeat it just in case for the new listeners. Flex rule is that this is the ability that our players here can draft something that is not on not from a mainline Final Fantasy. The draft, the things they can draft, the list of things they can draft is all from the mainline games. So if they really wanted the battle system from Final Fantasy Tactics, they could use their flex option for that. However, you only get one flex option out of all of your 16 picks, so they have to choose wisely. There is also a limit break option, which allows you to draft 2 picks in a row, but then you forfeit your subsequent pick. So if you draft number 1 overall and then you use your limit break, so you get the first 2 picks right off the bat, because you got your first 2 picks, you do not get a pick at all in the second round. So people can choose to use a limit break or not. It just gives you an extra pick earlier on, but they forfeit a pick later on down. The new rule to this is that if they want to sacrifice their limit break, they can sacrifice their limit break for using the flex option a second time. So they can flex in 2 different options from outside the mainline Final Fantasy games, as long as it's Final Fantasy adjacent or related. But they can't use a limit break. There is trading involved, but I honestly might get rid of it because it's confusing as shit. Very, very hard to explain, so I'm not going to go into too much with that. The last thing here is we've added some new options for plot twist as one of the things. Some of the new ones are apocalyptic 10-year time skip. That's one of the plot twists. World is caught in an infinite time loop. Protagonist was born on the moon. And I think those were the 2 worlds merge, I think was part of the old one. So I think those are the 3 new ones that we added. And then the mini games this time around, starting with the second draft we did, instead of picking a list from the entirety of all of the mini games, I have asked my wonderful panelists here for 3 of their favorite mini games. And so now the minigame list that they can draft from are the LeBlanc Massage from Final Fantasy X-2, Sphere Break from Final Fantasy X-2, Beach Battle from Final Fantasy Crystal Bearers, Blitzball from Final Fantasy X, Queen's Blood from FF7 Rebirth, Chocobo Racing from Final Fantasy VII, Sword Fighting from Final Fantasy IX, Monster Toss from Final Fantasy XIV, Snowboarding from Final Fantasy VII, and Tetramaster from Final Fantasy IX. I believe that's all the housekeeping we have for the draft. So are all of my wonderful panelists ready for the draft to begin?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Kicking it off with the number 1 overall pick is Adam. Adam, so what is your first pick kicking off the 2024 Final Fantasy Draft?
I am going to have to be very strategic because I have a very specific idea in mind. And my first 2 choices, if I don't get them, it will throw a huge spanner in the works. Everything else is flexible, but this, I need to be very careful about what I pick. And I know Dave, and I know he won't pick a certain thing for my second pick, so I'm going to shelve that. And I actually know Megan as well because I used to listen to the IGN podcast, Girl Fight, back in the
day. Thank you for that.
I used to sit there and braid friendship bracelets while listening to it on repeat. So I know a couple of your opinions, and I think that you won't pick my second pick, so I'm going to have to go with my first pick.
Man, you've been strategizing in the off season.
Bill's the wild card, though. I don't know if he is on a similar wavelength. So I'm just going to hope and pray that this selection now is going to set it in stone, and then no one throws a spanner in the works for the second pick. So I'm going to use my flex immediately because I need to, and I am going to flex main character.
Okay.
And my main character is going to be Kuja from Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, wow.
That's allowed, right? I'm allowed to do that?
Yeah. Now the question is, since he is on the boss list, would that eliminate him from the boss list?
It should.
I think so.
I would think so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone's a running back sometimes and a wide receiver sometimes, that's how much I know sports ball. Yeah, you can't. The Giants can draft the guy as a wide receiver, and then all right, next week you'll play for the Browns as a. Yeah, no, you can't do that. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I guess you know what? Yeah, I think this is we're going to go the chaos route. Kuja is off the board for the main/secondary villain.
Wait. Point of order, though. Point of order. Okay. He never actually is in your party, though. This isn't like one of those heel turns like in other games. Does that really count, or is he just strictly in the villain category?
Please don't do this to me.
this is
I like your strategy,
why
which is why I'm blocking you.
Oh,
this is
Because if you do that, then I get to call another certain enemy
I
who
think
might
that's fair
give
game.
your character for
it's
a run for his money.
because he's using the flex option where I'm allowing it, because
All right.
in a previous draft we did, someone chose General Leo as one of their party members.
Ooh.
So since I've allowed that, I will allow it this time. Maybe next year, if this caused too much chaos this time around, then we'll adjust it for next year. But that's the rules will change as we continue on in years with the draft. So I'll allow it this time. This starting it off hot though, Adam. Holy shit! Like taking out a main villain for your primary character spot.
I have to. I'll tell you why.
I'm very curious. Is there anything you want to say about your pick before I throw it over to Dave for pick number 2?
Yes. So the reason why I'm picking Kuja as a main character is because he was, first of all, Final Fantasy IX is my favorite out of all of them. Kuja specifically, I resonated with a lot when I was in high school, partially because in the beginning I didn't know if he was a girl or a boy. And then when I realized that he was a guy, I was like, holy shit, he is fabulous. So I resonated with him, and I love his theatricality. And I'll leave it at that for now.
All right.
But it's the
you
camp
don't want to
factor.
tease your draft too much. I get it.
It's the camp factor I'm going for at the moment.
All right. Dave, over to you for the second overall pick.
Well, Josh, I'm going to use my flex as well.
Jesus Christ.
I've had this plan since I saw the rules and the characters on the list, and I'm going to pick a character that's not from a main Final Fantasy game as my flex pick here, and it's because you said the word chaos several times in that last pick there. I'm going with Jack.
Chaos.
From
Jack?
Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger of Paradise. Jack is going to be my protagonist. So that is my first round pick, and I'm building my game
Now,
around
I'm assuming that's a main
Jack.
party member, right?
Yes, main party member. I don't even need other party members. I got Jack.
You got Okay, so let me actually, I gotta.
I very nearly went down that route as well, Dave. So
there we go.
I didn't.
Yeah, and I took a look. Jack is not on the villains list, even though he's technically in Final Fantasy 1, but not on the list. I got to use the flex. I got to make it happen.
Okay.
But all right, Megan, for your first pick and the third overall pick, what are you choosing for your first pick?
You know what? I'm going to save my flex and limit breaks, and I'm going to go with somebody very reliable. Now, how you pronounce this name depends. I always pronounced it wrong when I was little, but I'm going to go with Cecile or Cecil from Final Fantasy IV. He is both a Dark Knight and a Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I need a strong sort of tanky character to balance out my party. So we're going to go with him first. Also, Final Fantasy IV, favorite Final Fantasy. So, of course, I have to pick somebody from there.
I need a replay for it because the first time I played it, it was before I really kind of could appreciate the Super Nintendo RPGs. And now, since I started doing the podcast and diving into more stuff, I even started enjoying them a lot more because 4 underwhelmed me the first time, but I'm willing to go back and really, there's a lot of games I played that underwhelmed me at first, and then I aged 5 years. I'm like, oh, this is really good for reasons that I would not have understood back when I was 22 or something. Well, I'm 35 now, so it's been more than 5 years, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I'm an evangelist for the game, and I think on IGN years ago, there was a whole episode of me evangelizing about that game. So it is worth going back to. It is worth getting to know. It's one of those sort of underrated games that changed more of RPGs than people realize. It was the first to do the ATB, active time battle system. So just saying.
Yeah, I just played it for the first time and I had a good time with it.
And Dave here is a notable retro game critic, or a hater, I should say. Not really. You just you have less you have hot takes on them is the way I would put it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
I like to say he has bad taste.
All right, Bill, throwing it over to you for your first pick, the 4th overall pick.
So I find it interesting everyone is gone with like party members first. In the course of this podcast series, I'm literally in the middle of I've lived Final Fantasy, I feel like now for at least 9 months, and I will probably for another 9 months further as I continue on this journey. And on my show, each episode can have up to like 12 people on it, each sharing different stories and personal opinions about these games. And one of the big things I asked at the very beginning episode was what makes a Final Fantasy, and what is one tent pole aspect? What's the one thing they have to get right in the Final Fantasy? And almost every single person, with some exceptions, said soundtrack, music. So I'm going to start with
Mm,
music because
okay.
I think the music of Final Fantasy sets the tone for which all the other characters and all the other story beats can wrap around. And I think the music of Final Fantasy is so vital and important. That has to be it. I'm okay. I just realized I had a thought for this already, but I think I'm gonna use a flex. And
Oh,
let me know if this is allowable. This is a stretch. If it's not allowable, that's fine. But I want to use the music of Final Fantasy VI, that from the Distant Worlds orchestral performances.
I would even argue you don't need to use a flex for that because it's still the soundtrack as a whole. I think
Okay.
variations of that soundtrack are
Okay.
fair,
Perfect.
because otherwise, then it's like if
Limit console.
yeah, like are we really going to nitpick it at that point and be like, well, you can't use the re-release of Final Fantasy sixes or like whatever fine, like if they did a full new version of the like I mean, I guess Rebirth wouldn't be a perfect example because that's a completely different game, but like, no, I don't think you even need to use a flex for that one.
Fantastic. Then I will put that flex back in my pockets. I'll hand it to my assistant GM, Cactar over here. Thank you. Don't put a hole in it. Just gently with it. And yeah, I'm gonna do the soundtrack of Final Fantasy VI. That is my first pick for my team.
That I think so. I if I was participating in the draft, I think that's a smart pick only because there's lots of options for main characters and not as many options for like soundtracks or consoles or anything like that. So a smart choice. Also, side note for the consoles, because I explained it off mic, forgot to explain it on mic for listeners. For the soundtracks, we are unlike in previous drafts for any soundtrack that has like compilations of previous games music, like Final Fantasy 15, you can turn the radio station and listen to the soundtracks from the previous games. We're only counting music written as original music for that specific game. So anytime like 14 has like all the remixes of previous games, same with 15, those do not count. It has to be original music for that game. But all right, moving on to the second round. And since it is a snake draft, Bill, even though you went last, you get to go first for the second round. We're going to snake back around. So you get your second pick, and it is the fifth overall pick in the draft.
All right. Well, I didn't know what a snake draft was, so I am kind of unprepared because I was expecting other people to go. So then I'll go with my next thought then. I also think that a big part of Final Fantasy and a thing that Final Fantasy doesn't do well all the time are the main antagonists. I think the antagonists in Final Fantasy are very hit or miss. I was not expecting to go next, so I am going to use my second pick, and you're going to see a running theme here. I promise I'm not just going to make Final Fantasy VI. This will be a lot more interesting than what this sounds like, but I have to go with the Clown Prince himself, Kefka, and take him for my villain. He's chaotic evil. He's easily, in my opinion, the best antagonist in the entire franchise. And I think it's going to allow me to have a really strong character of that, again, that chaotic evil, of that person who you can't trust and you cannot expect, is very unexpected. So
Mhm.
because I'm still trying to build out the story around it, I want a very flexible villain, and I think Kefka could slide into many different scenarios, many different worlds. And I'm just a big old fan. There's gonna be an entire episode just about Kefka. For
I
my
know
Final
you've been
Fantasy
teasing
6.
that for quite some time on your series, so I'm looking forward to the
Yeah,
Kefka
there's
themed
literally an
episode.
entire episode just about Kefka. So
I'm gonna
yeah,
laugh if we get to the end of this draft and you've just drafted all of Final Fantasy VI.
I'm not.
I was
No,
just
I
going to
have
say, like,
I
there,
have
there
other
are worse
picks.
strategies out there.
I know.
Old strategy, Cotton.
Do you realize it is kind of the best one? I'm just saying. No, I do have other thoughts in other games, but I just wanted to make sure I nailed down soundtrack and villain first. So there you go.
All right, Megan, up to you for your second round pick.
God, I'm so confused because I'm looking at the sheet, and so I want to go like party member 1, 2, 3, but we're kind of all going out of order. So now I'm like, oh
Oh
God,
yes,
I didn't
yeah,
even
you
consider
don't
the
have.
possibility in my mind for some reason. I'm just so organized. So I'm trying to decide between party member and soundtrack. I'm going to go ahead though, since we're kind of mixing things up. Can I use a flex to do a villain as a party member?
I mean, I allowed it for Adam, so why not?
Can I guess who you're going to pick? Because I think I know.
Who?
Are you picking Ultimisia?
No, but that's a good guess. That's too
Okay.
predictable.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Final Fantasy 14 fans, say it with me. Emmett Selk, aka Hades.
okay.
Very good.
Emmett Selk. I need to play. I've been putting off playing Final Fantasy 14 just because it's an MMO and I don't have the time for it. It makes me sad. I want to have the time for it. But okay, so what about Emmett Selk made you draft them? I don't know their gender, but draft them.
I got to be real careful because there are major spoilers, and a lot of people, because of Dawn Trail, are starting from A Realm Reborn. So I want to be very careful not to say too much specifically about him because it will give away the game. But let's just say this person is very powerful, and but he has an incredible story arc. I really don't want to spoil it too much. I feel like I've already spoiled a tiny bit of it, and I don't want to do that for people. So I'm just saying, if you know, you know.
That is it. This is the first draft that not only has someone drafted a villain as their main party member, but two people have. Like it's never happened before.
We're making it a trend.
Yeah, we're breaking the mold.
Every single so far, this is only the third year, obviously, that I've done this, but every single year there is like just a new angle that I would never have expected, and I love it every single time. I love the chaos. Let's keep this going. And Dave, since you drafted chaos in the last round, what is your draft this round? What's your pick for this round?
Okay, so I already used my flex, so chaos is off the board, and Jack's on my team, so I can't have chaos.
Well, unless
anyway.
you want to get rid of your limit break.
Oh, that's true. I will. I'll save that. I might need it later. I think picking a villain is a good one because I do agree that Final Fantasy villains are not always the best. So I'm going to take my personal favorite villain in the entire series, and that is Sin from Final Fantasy X.
Really?
So now
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it's my favorite one. So also it is partly because of what my first round pick was. Now, if listener picture in your head, Jack punching Sin in the face, that is, we're gonna have at least 3 cutscenes of that in my Final Fantasy game.
And then he puts his AirPods in and walks away.
Exactly. Yeah, he plays Linkin Park and he walks away. Yeah. So that is my pick. I'm picking Sin. It's my favorite villain in the entire series. I love the concept of it, the religion that sprung up around Sin. I love the whole thing. So maybe I'll use a flex to put a different character inside of Sin than the one that is in Final Fantasy X later on in the draft. I'll think about that.
That would be wild because flex out. You keep Sin, but flex out Jekt. That
Yeah, exactly. That'd be very funny.
I don't know how that would work. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, when we come across it, we'll see. But all right, Adam, back to you. You get to close out round 2 and begin round 3. So you actually get 2 picks in a row here.
Thank you, everyone, for not blocking this because I needed it. But I'm going to sacrifice my limit break for another flex.
Okay.
And I am going to flex in battle system. And Dave knows exactly where I'm going with this because I'm going to pick Final Fantasy X-2's battle system.
I know you were a big FF10-2 fan. I've owned the game for quite some time, and I still have yet to actually sit down to play it. So what about the 10-2 battle system speaks to you?
Okay, so this is probably going to make my sort of final game idea like very obvious, but
oh, I'm dense as fuck, so it's probably not to me.
Well, the thing I love most about 10-2's battle system is the outfit changes, the costume changes, the magical girl changing from one outfit into another thing. It is pure. Okay, fine. I'm just going to say it. It's like a reveal in RuPaul's Drag Race. You come out in one outfit, you rip it off, you're wearing another one, and you're ready to go. So I'm picking 10-2 specifically for the dress spheres, and yeah, the combat's pretty good too. But like, it's like Final Fantasy V's job system, but with a bit more flair, shall we say?
Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I let the on the draft floor here, the team a gamer looks at 40 is now stomping and struggling to figure out what they're gonna do next, because that was gonna be my battle system as well. Because I adore Final Fantasy X2's battle system. That was literally for that almost that exact reason, because dress spheres are so good and fun. Damn
I
it.
knew you were going to be the wild card, and I was like, oh, if anyone's going to derail me, it's going to be Bill.
I seriously was going to probably do that as like number 2, but I was like, no, I got to snag Kefka, because I got the music and Kefka are good. Wow. So now we're just all in the tizzy. You just see a dust cloud in my table on the draft floor. We don't know what to do now. So
meanwhile, I'm there posing in my gunner outfit, being like, let's go.
let's go.
Okay,
I'm just
cool.
picturing now, if your draft goes anything like Sebastian's from last year, spoiler alert for last year's draft, where Sebastian basically created a Full House sitcom version of Final Fantasy. I'm picturing yours turning into like a Final Fantasy version of Drag Race, and I hope that's where it's going. Don't tell me yes or no. Don't even hint at it. I want to be surprised if it's the case.
My lips are sealed.
All right. So you're now that you've closed out the second round, we begin the third round. Your third round pick, Adam.
Okay, so I'm going to go for main villain. And oh God, I don't know how to phrase this without being too obvious, but you need a queen of all queens. So how can I not go with Ultimisia, who is the fiercest queen of them all?
Okay.
So I'm picking Ultimisia.
Also one of the queens has the most ambiguous of motivations as to why she wants to, like, I want to compress time. Why? I don't fucking know. I'm just going to do it.
It's to stop aging so she can stay fierce forever.
Is she actually wants to stop aging? Is that what it is?
No.
Oh my God. But all right. Dave, up over to you for your third round pick.
Okay, so I think that I should pick a soundtrack with this pick. So 6 is already off the board. That's maybe my favorite soundtrack. So I'm just gonna have to go with Final Fantasy VII's soundtrack for my game. I think if not 6, I think 7 is my favorite one. And if we're getting the different, arrangements of the songs, that means I get the 7 remake and 7 rebirth versions of the songs too, which are fantastic. So yeah, give me FF7 for the soundtrack.
I was trying to think, would that count? Because FF7 Rebirth is so different. It's not like it's an orchestration of it. But it's the same music, just reorchestrated, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's variations. Like, there's some versions of the songs that are like basically the same thing, just full orchestration, and then there's some, 7 Rebirth has like the most leitmotif and stuff of any game I've ever played. So there's a bunch of variation in there too.
All right, I think I'll allow it for that. Since Rebirth was such a different game, but if the soundtrack's basically the same, if I allowed it for, like, I didn't differentiate it on our Google sheet here of everything with Bill's pick that it was like the Distant Worlds version, but all right, we'll go with it. But all right, Megan, over to you for your third round pick.
I keep, oh my gosh, nothing's in order. So I'm like, man, what do I lock in?
I feel so bad. I should have told,
secure?
because that's the part of the strategy of the draft is being like, okay, what am I in the greatest risk of like losing out on type of thing.
Sure. Yeah. And you can tell I don't do a lot of fantasy drafts. So I'm just kind of like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? I'm gonna do something interesting. I'm gonna lock in my secondary villain.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Secondary villain. And there are two I'm not going to give away who the one is, but I'm going to go with Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy V.
Okay.
He's a very persistent villain, but he may have a little bit of redemption arc. So I'm just gonna
Well,
put
is
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh and Exdeath the same thing?
No.
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 So I didn't have Gilgamesh on. So who would you say is the main villain of Final Fantasy or the? You know what? All right, no, let's pop one on the fly because
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I thought like main villain, but then there's like secondary mid tier bosses. That's how I
yeah.
interpreted it.
So in the we're draft. So the main villain and the secondary villain are drafted from the same pool. So if you look on the Google Doc, I
Okay.
have a main/secondary villain category, and that's what you would pick from for it.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So Gilgamesh, I'm assuming in the game is the actual secondary villain.
He's not the main villain.
He's not the main villain.
He's not. You think he is, but he's not.
Okay. Do I want to?
If it helps, once again, the Gamer Looks at 40 table is throwing their things in the air and screaming in pain because I too was going to pick Gilgamesh for my secondary villain.
All right, see, I was trying to lock him in for a reason.
You must have known because
You know
I
what?
was just thinking.
We
I don't know.
will
That's what I was
call.
thinking.
You know what? We will call an audible. We'll call an audible for this one since now 2 of the 4 panelists wanted Gilgamesh. And just to add a little bit of extra chaos in it, we can put Gilgamesh in on this one.
I was
Okay.
going to pick Gilgamesh too.
We all have excellent villain taste.
Sure do. Gilgamesh is so good.
Yeah, we'll do Gilgamesh on this one since Bill also wanted not to rub salt in the wound, Bill. But we can lock that one in. We can lock that one in.
Okay.
All right. So what about Gilgamesh? What about Gilgamesh makes you like? What do you like about him as the secondary villain?
He makes me laugh.
I don't see a better reason other than that. There's no better reason. All right, Bill, we are throwing it over to you for this. You're closing out round 3 and beginning round 4.
Thank you. And I just have to my team of Kektars, they're all just beside themselves now. They're just wandering around staring at each other, and I really don't know what to do at this point. I just can't imagine how cool Kefka and Gilgamesh would be.
On the same team.
That was on the same team, pushing against the same thing. Maybe, who knows? So I am going to start off with my first party member. And try.
Sorry, I just realized that there's already been so many party members chosen, and you're finally drafting your first one.
Well, it's funny because there are certain things, and also I'm the last pick, of course. So there are certain things I want to get out of the way, but this might be an odd one, just because I really, really think, and I hope this is not a hot take for anybody, this person just needs to be in a better game. And I think my game is going to be pretty good for my first party member and the main party member. Now, let me just actually real quickly ask, does this first party member imply they're the main one, like the main protagonist?
You can pick and like the numbers are just for like keeping track of it. Technically,
Okay.
like your main party member number 4 could be your primary protagonist if you really want to. That's more or less the numbers I have next to the main party is just literally to keep track that you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 party members.
Gotcha. Oh, perfect. That's what I thought. So that's why I want to. I don't know why I'm going to waste the early pick on him. I think this pick was projected to go in the 3rd round or 4th round. I don't know why I'm taking him this early, but I think Balthier from Final Fantasy 12 needs to be on my team because I think he needs to be in a better game than Final Fantasy 12. He's by far for me the highlight of that game. He's a character I'd like to explore more of. I want to learn more about him, and I think I need some swag in my party, and he's definitely going to provide that. He's got a bit of a unique personality in that game and on a lot of the games. So I'm going Balthier.
Not a lot of Final Fantasy 12 picks pop up on this, so you're the first. I like it. I like the risk taking here. All right. You've finished off round 3. We begin round 4. So, Bill, back to you. What is your 4th round pick?
Thank you. So, my 4th round pick, again, this was trying to be as strategic as possible because, again, this is also another one where I probably could pick them later in the rounds, but I don't want anyone to snipe me on it, and I don't think anyone will. but just because I think an ultra boss is also very important because they're the ones that are going to be they're kind of your first almost early introduction into bosses. And the only reason I am taking this person, I'm probably not even going to play him in the game. I'm just taking them so no one else does and tortures me. I am an old head. I am taking Warmech from Final Fantasy One as my ultra boss, only
Okay.
because
Ooh.
Warmech has been haunting my nightmares since I was 10 years old when I played Final Fantasy for the first time on the NES. And I just need some closure. I need to sit down with Warmech and say, listen, Warmech, your days are over. I'm taking him off the board so no one else can take Warmech because he's too evil. He's too brutal at the end of that dungeon. So I'm taking Warmech just for my own sanity.
I could feel when listening to your episodes on the first Final Fantasy game, I could feel how much rage there was for this boss.
I can't. It's just ingrained in my brain. Just that long straight hallway to Tiamat, and then of a 1 in 64 chance of running into basically game over because there's no way I was leveled enough to do that. It happened, y'all, and I had to go back to the beginning. Original Final Fantasy on the NES was no joke, y'all. No joke.
No, it was not. Dude, your show was the first time I learned about that Peninsula of Power or whatever it was. Just,
Oh yeah.
just speaking of like stuff that was crazy in the first Final Fantasy game. Anyway, I digress. Megan, back over to you for your 4th round pick.
Okay, so I wanted to ask a question though, and I meant to clarify this before we started. Does the Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 14 count or no? Because they're able to switch job classes all the time. So I wanted to clarify.
You know what? I think what do I have on the draft list for the characters? I think I just have a spot that says Final Fantasy 14 here because since it's an MMO, I didn't quite know how to handle that. I think that
Isn't that more tied into battle system? Just questioning.
That is tied into battle system technically, but also at the same time, that is a very good question. Yeah, because that is tied into the battle system more than it is to the character.
Sure,
itself.
but you can be a terrible dragoon or a dancer if you don't know what you're doing. It does take some skill with all the cooldowns and whatnot. I am just asking. I won't argue either way, but I just wanted to know.
I think if you want to do that, you would have to draft the 14 battle system with it because that is part of the combat system of the game by picking different classes and everything like that. It's not integral to the character itself, if that makes sense. Like you can be a warrior of light if you want to, but the class changing, you would need to have a battle system technically doesn't 5 have class changing as well type of thing. Like you could pair Final 5's battle system with this as well and get a similar effect. So you would not get the battle system just because you drafted the Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy 14, if that makes sense.
You know what? That sounds complicated. Let me go. I mean, my poor Yulia, my poor Warrior of Light. I'm going to put her aside for now then. And I am going to say for my next party member, I'm going to say Radia from Final Fantasy IV because she is both a black mage and a summoner.
There you go.
So
There you
both.
go. What is her?
That's a good pick. That's a very good
That's my
pick.
favorite game.
And that is your. Sorry, that's one of your main party members as well.
Yeah, that's my third party main
Yes.
party character because Emmett Selk was my flex, and then Cecile/Cecil is my first. pick.
Yes. Just wanted to make sure. All right, cool. And a lot of Final Fantasy IV love. I'm enjoying. I'm curious to see how it ties in with Emmett Selk, but we'll find out. And Gilgamesh.
I love that
we'll
those two
find
are
out.
together as well. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
But the relationship, I think, is really good pairing.
I'm excited to see how this turns out. Dave, over to you for your 4th round pick.
Okay. I had a lot of ideas, but one of my ideas, no one has picked one yet, so I think I'm safe for now, unless Adam goes wild with his picks, which he might. But I am going to go with my secondary villain, and well, I picked Jax, so I got to go with Chaos as my secondary villain. And I might just be building Stranger of Paradise. I'm going to run out of flexes eventually to build Stranger of Paradise for my my team here with slight alterations, bringing Sin in. But I do need a secondary villain. I don't feel super strongly about a lot of the other villains left on the list, so I want to nab something that fits in my game.
I like how in your Final Fantasy, chaos is the sub villain to sin.
Yes. they're both villains, antagonistic forces beyond comprehension, right? So let's just go nuts.
And I realize like I should have said this in the little like the oh my gosh, I can't even speak. I should have said this at the top of the episode. For this villain and secondary villain category, everyone's drafting from this main villain list. So basically the idea is that way, if you wanted to, I mean, Kefka's off the table because Bill got it, but you could have Sephiroth backing up Kefka in your Final Fantasy. It just the craziest, most absurd Final Fantasy you can think of.
Oh yeah. But Sephiroth would not he wouldn't put up a fight against Jack, so I need someone a little bit stronger.
True.
All right, and Adam, we are going to throw it over to you to close out round 4 and begin round 5.
Okay, so I've got all I need, and now it's just the window dressing. And
what?
Well, I mean, everything else in my sort of vague idea is flexible. Oh, I definitely wanted Rydia as like a party member, but I can let that one go. I've got some other options. It's fine. Think I'm going to go from a different category. I'm going to pick console. And
Ooh, okay.
I'm going to pick the PS5 because it is 2024 and I want fancy graphics. And I think, I want to see Kuja in his thong / jockstrap in high definition. Whatever it is under that skirt, I don't know. But yeah, I want I'm thinking like Dissidia NT style graphics, but like nicer. I don't know. That's just sort of what I'm picturing in my head. And the PS5, I need either a PS4 or a PS5 to pull that off. So we'll go with PS5 as the console.
Okay. Going with the pretty graphics. I like it.
Yeah.
Round 5 now. Your first pick for round 5.
Okay. This is where it gets a little more vague. You know what? What?
It's just, this is where it gets more vague. You've only made like 4 picks. You're like, man, all of these 12 other picks, I don't know what to do.
I committed to a specific idea and I got what I wanted. And now
Adam could probably just quit now and enjoy his game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Kuja on himself changing his outfit all the time.
All those high definition thongs you keep talking about.
All right. So every main villain, every Queen of Queens needs a Michelle Visage. So we're going to go with secondary villain.
Okay.
And none of these people really embody Michelle. So I'm going to go with Ultima from Final Fantasy 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ultimisia is somehow controlling Ultima as her henchman. She is the main, but he is the sub. Oh, wait. That's not what I meant.
We know what you meant.
It's more like he's the one that she sends out to go get, a carton of milk and some eggs or whatever. He's less important, but
this is a very like mundane villain plot, but I'm kind of here for it.
Her plan is to beat the cost of living crisis. So
she's going to take over Big Milk.
Hey, that's a big deal. That's ambitious.
Yeah, and of course, it's just one of those things where the villain, they may be perceived as evil, but their goals are noble.
They're doing it by force, and no one likes it apparently, even though it's going to fix the cost of living.
Exactly. She's like eggs for $15 a carton? I think not. Go get them, Ultima.
Go track down Big Milk, and you make them pay for it.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. For you, we're up to you. Your 5th round pick.
Okay, tough one. I think just going with the category that doesn't have that many things to pick from. So if there's a sudden run on it, like when you're playing Final Fantasy, you're like, crap, all the tight ends are gone. or playing fantasy football. I'm gonna pick a console also, and it's not necessarily that I need the prettiest graphics, but I am trying to avoid some of the load times in a few of these consoles here. So give me a
Mm.
PS4 for my game, and it's not because that's the console that Stranger of Paradise released on. But give me a PS4. I wouldn't mind a couple of the other consoles. I do not want a PS1 RPG and have to sit for 10 seconds waiting for battles to load. So give me a PS4. It could handle, I haven't picked a battle system yet, but a PS4 could handle an action system. It could handle a turn-based system. Give me that.
So far, Bill is just recreating Final Fantasy VI, and you are just recreating Strangers of Paradise. Stranger of Paradise.
I mean, I'm
We have our
I'm
favorites.
so
What can we
happy
say?
about this. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Megan, we're up to you. And as a side note, all the three other panelists have already drafted their main villain. So if you want to, you don't have to. You can wait to draft that until the very end. No one can take your villain from you anymore.
Good to know. I'm a little bit worried because I was like, oh, I better lock in my console though. Because the one that I was going to go for just happens to be, I don't even know if this is a good draft pick, but this is the one that is my favorite because it's got 4, 5, and 6 on it, is the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
Lock that one in. It doesn't have weird graphical issues and crashing, and you don't have to download patches and all that stuff. You get what you get, and the Final Fantasies are a good length. They're long, but not too long. And they have a snappy pace and the 16-bit graphics and then the 32-bit graphics for Final Fantasy spin-offs. Like, people forget, I think the Seiken Densetsu series was like Final Fantasy something originally. I forget. Was it that or Chrono Trigger? Maybe I'm thinking Chrono Trigger.
It was like Final Fantasy Legend or whatever on the Game Boy,
something like
right?
that. I think of Final Fantasy Legend, but I can't remember. I'm trying to look it up right now. But yeah, I'm locking in. I'm locking the SNES in. Is what I'm saying.
It's a great pick. Of all the consoles, that's the one that I think is the visuals are going to always look good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I want to thank you for picking that, because the last draft, this is the most crazy thing. Not a single person picked the PlayStation 1 or the Super Nintendo for their console. And I was just, my mind was a little bit blown because those are like the two consoles that most people are nostalgic for with Final Fantasy.
Right.
I was just so in shock. So the fact that you've finally, after it's been 2 years, because the last one was in 2022. It's been 2 years since someone picked a Super Nintendo for their Final Fantasy in the draft. So thank you for breaking a streak that I never thought would ever happen, to be honest.
It was hard between the SNES and the PlayStation, on the first PlayStation. People forget the original PlayStation was quite the JRPG machine.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, was it ever? There's so many ones on there that I feel like I don't know, because like I like JRPGs, but I haven't played a whole lot. So I feel like anytime I look at like a convention, there's always like some new JRPG that I've never heard of. I'm like, wow, another one? Like, I feel like there's like hundreds that just we still don't know about. But all right, Bill, over to you for the end of round 5 and the beginning of round 6.
Well, as is the theme of this entire draft, again, the Gamer Looks at 40 table is just a flutter with activity, because I was going to take the Super Nintendo, because I realized, like everyone else did, oh wow, there's only a few of them and there may be a run. So since SNES has been taken, I don't think I now...
Real quick, hold on, Bill. Everyone else has already drafted their console.
This is true. So I don't have to wait.
So no one else can take your console. Just saying.
Well, it's none of the other ones I really want, but given the game that I'm envisioning, all those would work. So I'm actually going to wait on console, because I don't need to take that now, like you just said. I don't need to worry about that. So I am going to go with setting. Again, setting I think is very important in the Final Fantasy game. I think it's sometimes underappreciated to a certain extent, and I really want my game set in the world of Final Fantasy X. Reason being, aha, see, high five, Cactar. Oh, no, not that kind of high five. Careful. No, I Final Fantasy X. I love the variety of locations. You have a lot of them. Again, the variety of locations I love, and of course, I really do the idea of the different factions within the world. it plays heavily into the game I am thinking about. So Final Fantasy X is going to be my world/setting.
And Bill, you'll get to see Kefka dressed for warm weather.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Kefka in a parka. I can, I have to have that. Come on now.
That sounds like a sitcom just waiting to happen. Kefka in a parka.
It's like when Hojo went to the beach in Final Fantasy VII. Yeah.
Exactly. Totally.
All right, Bill. Opening up round 6 now.
All right, now we're in these kind of middle rounds. It's time to really cement in kind of what I'm feeling for this game, and I think that a big part of Final Fantasy is we've talked about music, right? Setting's important, characters important, but Sid is damn important. It's the quality of your Sid can make or break your Final Fantasy game, and by far the best Sid in Final Fantasy is the Sid from Final Fantasy IV.
God damn it.
And that is I'm taking Sid from Final Fantasy IV.
Oh man,
because he's basically another party member, even though he's not in your party. But he's so fun, and he's just a go get him kind of guy. And man is just jumping into craters and just going all out. So Final Fantasy IV Sid is by far my favorite Sid, and is now taken on my team.
Oh my goodness. People are just stealing picks left and right. I mean, I know it sucks for all you panelists, but I love this stuff. Oh my God. It's so amusing. All right. Megan, over to you for your 6th round pick.
my Sid, you stole my Sid.
I'm sorry.
All right. This isn't even like because of some particular skill, but I mean, I gotta go with Sid from Final Fantasy 16. I'm trying to look up the voice actor who's also in Diablo 4, by the way, and his voice is so sexy, and that character is so sexy, and he's such a great mentor for Clive. So I'm gonna go with Sid from Final Fantasy 16. I'm gonna lock my Sid in now.
All right.
There goes my Sid.
We all have excellent taste in Sid. It was it Highwind? No, or was that the other? I'm trying to think of the last name of the Final Fantasy 16 Sid. It was Highwind. It was Sid Highwind. I think he shares a name with Kane Highwind.
For the one what I have on the draft list is Sidolphus Telemon from 16.
Oh no, you're right. I'm getting them mixed up. It's Telemon. Who was the other Highwind?
I still need to play 16. I didn't get a PS5 until like March, and I still have barely been able to play it. I gotta sit down and find some time. This damn podcast is not letting me do, and also parenting. And also
when you
parenting.
do, brace yourself for that Sid, because he has a voice like a 2-pack-a-day smoker, and it's sexy as hell.
It's so sexy. Oh my God.
Is it better than Mega Man from Captain N with his smoker voice?
Maybe
different smoker voice, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because Mega Man is not sexy at all in that show.
It's a sexy smoker voice, but not the kind of smoker voice where if they're whispering sweet nothings in your ear, you can smell the cigarettes. It's like just like they're a reformed smoker, but the damage has been done, and it still sounds great.
I love.
Sorry.
I love how wonderfully specific that was, and I would also like to verify that. That's great.
There we go. All right, Dave, over to you for your 6th round pick.
Okay, so I'm going to end the run on Sids. I'm not going to take a Sid because my favorite Sid is off the board. So my team of scouts are scrambling in the background. So I'm going to buy them some time. I'm going to take a battle system because you do a lot of fighting in Final Fantasy games. And I'm surprised that the best Final Fantasy battle system has not been taken, Adam. And that is Final Fantasy X battle system. So I'm taking that. It is the best turn-based system that they have ever done. It was so good they stopped doing turn-based altogether because they knew they couldn't top it. So Final Fantasy X is the battle system in my game.
It is very good battle system, but you can't change your outfits, so you can have it.
You can change your bucklers. Is that not good enough for you, Adam?
Oh, a new accessory. Oh, look at my.
You could change your little cactus doll or whatever.
Oh, they are very cute dolls.
The only thing that really stuck out to me about 10's battle system was the fact that you could technically complete, if you really wanted to and you had a lot of free time, you could complete the sphere grid and like your party members could be good at everything, which is cool, but it's also
That's some sicko shit. That's not
that yeah,
something
that's
normal
like
people do.
insane.
No.
But that, I mean, once you get your ultimate weapons and you can break that upper damage limit, like that's where it comes into play. I don't know, I love it. But all right, Adam, over to you, closing out round 6 and beginning round 7.
Okay, so I want to get back on the Sid train, and I'm going to pick Sid Highwind from Final Fantasy VII, who I assume would probably have a sexy smoker voice since he always has a cigarette in his mouth. But the only downside is he would actually smell like cigarettes, so that's not so hot.
That is
But anyway,
very true. That is
he's good.
Before we continue, I'm going to take a poll from everyone. Should, by Adam drafting Sid from Final Fantasy VII, does that remove Sid from the character, from the party member list as well?
I
I'd say
think
that's
so.
fair.
Yeah, there's enough characters.
Okay. I leave it up to my panelists for this because it you know, it's going to come up at least once or twice throughout the course of these drafts. So I wanted to see what everyone's thought was by removing him from both, excuse me. All right. So Sid Highwind from Final Fantasy VII, and that also knocks him out from everyone else's from everyone else's Sids, which technically, Dave, you're the last one who needs it, and everyone's character or party members. So Adam, back over to you for your 7th round pick to kick it off.
All right. And just to clarify, my Sid is not going to be a party member. He's just going to be working on the whatever ship I've got.
Just going to be smoking up a storm and working on machines.
He's outside having a smoko on his break. He's helping out, but he is not fighting in the party because he's not fabulous enough. But someone who is fabulous, maybe I will go with... let's go with party member. So I'm going to add in a second party member. And with Rydia off the list, I'm going to have to go with... I'm going to go with Faris from Final Fantasy V.
Ooh, good pick.
Yeah. She's gender non-conforming or kind of a tomboy. She's a good vibe. She's someone who I think could be a very versatile fighter as well, since Kuja is more of a magic user. I need someone who can fall into more of a warrior type role, and even though they don't have specific roles in 5, since it's always select a job or whatever. And I suppose that since my battle system is 10-2, anyone can be anything anyway. I like the idea of just like having Faris express herself with different outfits.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Man,
she's basically going to sub in as my pain from 10-2, basically.
You know, out of context, for people who don't play Final Fantasy, that sentence makes no sense.
What? Wait, which
sub in
part?
for my pain? Like, it's like who's hurting? Like, what's happening?
No, for that, I've got ibuprofen and paracetamol. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm happy with that. We'll lock that in.
Okay. Dave, back over to you for your 7th round pick.
Okay. This is tough. I feel like I've gotten the things that I was afraid other people were going to take, and now I think I'm going to pick a setting just so that I get one of the ones that I really like. And 10s is off the board, so I can't see Jack in a swim trunks on the beach. So
I mean, Final Fantasy VII has Costa del Sol.
That's true. It does. Yeah, I'm just going to go with Final Fantasy VI's world. I like the vibe of it. And Final Fantasy VI's world also just includes, you've got like a little bit of steampunk side, but you have all the fantasy stuff as well. In other parts, you've got a castle that can dive under the sand. You've got a whole bunch of cool stuff. So just give me the world of Final Fantasy VI. And since my game is on the PS4, I am just imagining in my head what it would be like to be blown up and rendered in that way. So yeah, give me FF6 for the world and setting.
I like it. All right, Megan, up to you. Round 7.
Ooh, I'm trying to figure out which next thing I want to lock in, right? As we get more and more advanced. I better lock in my main party member though, and I'm trying to have a balanced party of like DPS, tank, healer. I don't think I have a healer really on the board. I think I'm going to have to add one. And it's coming down to 2. But you know what? Just because I love her so much, I'm going to have to lock in Yuna from Final Fantasy X. She's both a
Mm.
summoner and a healer, and I need a healer in my party. So I'm going to lock her in.
Oh, you got 2
That
summoners as well. That's
I've
cool.
got 2 summoners. So I was afraid that might be a little too much and I should have some diversity, but I need a good healer, and it was coming down to her and one other person. But I was like, I'm going to go with Yuna. I just have to have someone from Final Fantasy X on my team.
Oh,
And
what if
she's
they
the best.
summon
Yuna's
2?
awesome.
They can summon 2 at the same time, and like one can have Ifrit and the other one can have Shiva, and be like, fire,
Exactly.
nice. Yeah, that's cool.
all right, Bill, closing out round 7 and beginning round 8.
Well, this is again, these middle rounds are really challenging because some of my favorites going off the board. I will have to say that Megan, you got me back for Sid because Yuna was going to be on my team. I had her pegged for a mid-round pick, and it's been the early mid-round pick. So I now have to pivot because I do feel like I need to pick another party member. I only have Balthiar right now, and as much as I enjoy his swag, he can't do it alone. That's the whole theme of Final Fantasy is you can't do it alone. It's a big theme of it. So I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path with this, and this actually might be a little controversial because people don't like this character, or should I say these characters, for some reason. But I need a little youth in my party. And like you said, Megan, I want balance as well. I want some magic. I need some power. I also want thematic balance as well, like personality balance. And I want people who are going to bounce off really well. So I'm going with Palmaporum is going to be my second
Oh, that's
party
a great
member.
pick. I love them. Why don't people like them?
People bag on Palmaporum, and I don't know why. I love Palmaporum, and I like it's kind of a cheat because they are two party. They are
Yep,
the same.
this was brought up last draft, and I didn't correct it. But you know what? It's technically 2 party members for the price of 1.
Yeah,
So
except twin cast.
They're
Exactly.
small. They can stand on each other's shoulders and put on a trench coat. It's fine.
Yes, exactly. So I'm doing Palmaporum because it does give me like an extra person, and B, I just like those characters, and again, having the strong magic users will be really important, and they're versatile, and I think it'd be a lot of fun watching them play off of someone who's got that Balthiar swag and the other characters I'm thinking for the main party. So that's my pick.
okay, I like it. I like it. Now you're also beginning round 8.
All right. So since we're on the topic of party members, I might as well just continue on that road. There's a lot of party members are so tough because I'm trying to put them in context with not just the game that they're in, but the game that they could be in, and their versatility. And I'm trying to avoid Final Fantasy VI because I don't want everything to be that. Although I think I've done a pretty good job so far. But I am going to dip into the well once again for Final Fantasy VI, and I am going to select as my third party member Tara Branford for that
Yes.
spot.
Ooh, yes.
Because I just it's in talking about characters for the podcast, and I'm not trying to overplug it. I'm just my life is this show right now. It's amazing how many people have such strong connections to Tara. And after replaying it for the millionth time for the show, I realized why. And I think she's a character of depth, of intrigue. I think she's got that wild card personality almost, where her growth is so interesting. It was really tossed up between her and Celis, but I think I have to just go with Tera for the game that I am envisioning. So that's my pick.
Good pick. Good character.
I love it, man. I Final Fantasy VI. When I first played it, it was like I played it way after. Like I didn't get to grow up with it, but playing it after, it was one of those games where it's just like I was surprised at how deep all the characters' growth was. Like because you don't expect storytelling like that necessarily in like games from Super Nintendo, but I mean there obviously are a ton that do that. But at the time when I first played it, I was not expecting it. So great pick. Great pick. Megan, round 8.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to try to lock in. I've been talking about summoners. I better lock in my summon, huh?
Yeah.
You know what? This was really tough because I have a lot of favorites, but I'm going to go with Anima from Final Fantasy X, the easily scariest and one of the most powerful summons in the franchise. But pure nightmare fuel and also pretty darn tough. So I'm gonna lock in Anima from Final Fantasy X.
I'll never forget the first time that gets summoned in 10, and you're like, what is that thing?
It just gets more and more terrifying.
Yeah.
And then when you fight it, it has a second side to it, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
And the
scary.
background of the character is so sad.
It is so, so sad. But like when you first see it and you don't know that, you're like, what unholy monstrosity is this?
It is so terrifying.
It's the Undertaker and Kane combined. Wrestling fans will know what that is.
Oh my gosh. It looked, I remember the first time I saw it too, it's like giving it, I understand it's like in a straight jack, but I'm like, as a kid, I didn't understand that. I'm like, why is it giving itself a hug? Like, what's going on?
Everybody needs comfort.
It just needs some
It's
comfort.
one of those thunder jackets for like puppies, when there's loud noises and you put a little jacket on and it gives it a big warm hug.
Hold on. There we go. Everything okay, Bill?
Yeah, my cat turned my computer off, or tried to. The cat literally jumped on the tower and hit the button, and it's shutting down. I'm like, what?
It's really disappointed with your picks.
You know what? And I have I'm gonna address that in a little bit, actually. I'm so sorry about that, y'all.
No, don't worry. I'm assuming it turned off your Audacity. If you can, you lost the file. It doesn't matter.
No, it didn't. It actually didn't, because I'm using Reaper to record it, and it said it went to shut down. I said cancel the shutdown, so I didn't actually shut down. And Reaper came up and said, "Hey, you should stop recording before you shut down your computer." So it actually kept going. So it kept going.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Thank you, Reaper. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay. Dave, over to you for your 8th round pick.
Okay, so I think it's time that I start to fill out my party to go along with Jack. Now, Jack's a lot, so I need characters that can either handle Jack, hold their own in a traveling party with him, or I need characters that can maybe get to him a little bit. First, I'm going to pick a character that I think can just go toe to toe with Jack as a force of nature of a person. So I'm going to take Lulu from Final Fantasy X. I need a maid.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, Adam. Lulu doesn't take any shit, so she's perfect to go alongside Jack, because Jack's a lot again, and I need someone there that can handle it first and foremost. So there's a lot of good, strong characters on this list. A couple I might be eyeing for later rounds, but I got to get Lulu. I love Lulu so much.
Also, she dodges a shitload of lightning bolts.
That's true.
She does.
So, Adam, over to you to close out round 8.
Well, now that Lulu has been taken off the board, unfortunately, I won't have my belt diva to walk the runway. So I'm going to have to go with... Actually, I think you might have done me a favor, because I was really tossing up between her and somebody else. And now that you've done that, it's sort of freed up another spot for me to make a decision. So I'm also going to go with party member. And I'm going to go with my Mask for Mask character, which will be Gladiolus from Final Fantasy 15. Because I feel like... I don't know if anyone remembers this, but back in the day when 15 came out, there was a lot of thirst for Gladiolus, and especially within like the gay sphere. And I feel like he's a good archetype for the traditionally masculine gay man, because as far as I'm aware, he doesn't have a romance in that game. So I'm just going to say that he's got a questionable sexuality. I'm trying to get together a little band of misfits who have various spectrums of things and stuff.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I'm so eloquent. But in this context, I'm going to go with Gladiolus, and yeah, I think he deserves a chance to strut his stuff on the runway.
All right. Now, before we move on to round 9, we're halfway through the draft. Let's get a little temperature on like what has and has not been drafted. I don't really go over the party members because there's such a wide variety, but there's only Megan, you're the only one who has drafted all 4 party members. Everyone else still has some left to draft. For main villain, 3 out of the 4 people have drafted main villain. Megan, you still have that available to you. You're the only one. Bill, you are the only one who has not drafted a secondary villain. And let me see here. Bill, you also are the only one who has not drafted a console. And I think that is all of the ones for. I always like to shout it out in the middle of the draft just so everyone knows, like, if you have the ability to use this knowledge to your advantage, you can use it in the latter half of the draft. I think those are the only categories that 3 out of the 4 panelists here have have made their picks in. So yeah. Okay, now that we've gone through kind of our midway temperature check. Check's the word I'm looking for. We're going to kick off round 9. Adam, you get the first pick of round 9.
Can I take the rectal thermometer out now? Are we good?
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, you can cut that if you want.
No, it's staying in. Are you kidding me?
Oh, God damn it. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to... Wait, how many people have picked world setting? I think it's just me and Megan.
You can
now
if you scroll down to the bottom of the Google sheet, you can see each thing is listed down there. So the only other person who has not picked a world setting is Megan.
All right. Well, there are plenty of options.
Don't pick my world.
All right. I tell you what. I'll withhold my choice for that world at the moment and pick something as a throwaway. No, not actually a throwaway. This is something that I legitimately want in my game. And I'm going to go for plot twist. And I am going to select the apocalyptic 10-year time skip.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to not pick too many things from the same franchises, but I've got Gladiolus from 15. I'm still going to have to select the plot twist from 15 as well. But
and you'll have to find a way to work that into your pitch to the audience.
Yeah, we'll make it work. It'll be in a different context. We'll
like
leave
it
for now.
Apocalyptic 10-year time skip. The first plot twist is now off the board, or now on the board, and I guess technically off the board. Anyway, off and on at the same time.
It's on and off.
Dave, over to you for your 9th round pick.
Okay, so I'm torn here. I want to pick another character for my party, and I have 2 characters. One of them is another, take no nonsense type character to go along with Jack and Lulu. The other one is very much not, but also is the same character class as one of my other characters. So I'm going to lean on the fact that I picked the Final Fantasy X battle system, which means I get the sphere grid, which means I can change people's builds if I want. So I'm going to take one of the best characters in all of Final Fantasy, someone who can lend a little bit of heart and innocence to the party. And that is Vivi from Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, I like that.
Very good. That's a good one.
And
Vivi has
the insurmountable task of fixing Jack. But I think Vivi and Lulu would be perfect together.
I could actually see that. I could, especially because Vivi is like, he's kind of with like, because it's been a minute since I've played Final 10, but Lulu's pretty like emotionally closed off as a character, right? Like she's pretty stoic.
Yes, but that doesn't mean like she's very capable of connecting with people.
But like Steiner is the same thing in Final 9, and those two were like 2 peas in a pod. So I that's why I'm saying like I feel like that makes sense for your pick to put Vivi and Lulu together.
Just like Steiner, Jack has a very one-track mind. So there we go. We're talking ourselves into it. Vivi, Lulu, and Jack together.
Yeah, and Lulu
Okay.
can be like the mentor figure for the little baby black mage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't need, different character classes. I can have Jack be a black mage too. We just let's go nuts.
And actually, I'm going to shout this out now before we forget, just for the listeners. Dave, we had a little break in between the first half and the second half. Dave, at the end of the entire draft, is going to use his second flex to flex in someone for Jekt as the human part of Sin for his main villain. So,
Oh, I can't wait.
That will be our final reveal of the draft. So you better close it out strong, Dave. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
don't worry.
All right, Megan, over to you for your 9th round pick.
Okay, so just to clarify about ultra bosses, these are like the super hard bosses, and that includes like side bosses and whatnot.
Correct. So anything, like Emerald and Ruby weapon, I believe is what I put down for
Right.
for Final 7s. Whatever, I always forget the one from Final 8, but yeah, and the super hard optional boss.
Super hard. Okay, this one is for the real ones. So I'm going to pick from Final Fantasy 11.
Okay.
A notoriously hard boss called Absolute Virtue. This thing gave people nightmares. So I actually, I didn't have a good internet connection back in the day, so I wasn't able to play Final Fantasy 11, but I remember reading on message boards and stuff, people thought this boss was a nightmare because it's really powerful in terms of healing, and it takes a really, really long time to beat. So I'm going to go with Absolute Virtue.
Did you ever Did you ever end up playing or fighting against the boss once you were able to play FF11?
I wasn't able. So Absolute Virtue was actually in Final Fantasy 14 as well.
14, sorry.
But I'm talking about the 11 version.
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah.
it was legendary because I don't know if anyone actually beat it. I think you could beat it, but it was like so hard. It was like legendarily difficult to the point where people thought the developers were trolling.
Dear Lord. I wonder. I'd be curious to see what it's like then, because I love. I used to play WoW, so I would remember the raid bosses. So I'm curious what type of mechanics are needed for this guy.
Yeah, was it him or a different? I think it was Absolute Virtue. It was either Absolute Virtue or another Final Fantasy 11 boss that took like 18 hours.
Jesus
to beat
Christ!
or some
Holy cow.
crazy thing like that.
That's
But I mean, there's
nuts.
a similar story with Final Fantasy 12 because you have the gambit system, and if you set everything up right, you can actually drop the controller. And there was some boss in that. Was it Yzmat or something else where it would take hours to beat that boss too. So there's certain bosses that just take forever to beat. But Absolute Virtue, it's still one that sticks out in my mind because I just remember people freaking out online about it.
That's a good pick. That's like an infamous pick for the FF11 fans. All right, Bill, wrapping up round 9 and beginning round 10.
All right, so we're an interesting part of the proceedings here. I'm trying to be as strategic as possible because I know battle system. There's still a couple of options for battle system, and I think that's going to be important going forward. I know I don't need to pick I can leave secondary villain to the end because there's no one else to take a secondary villain, but there is a main villain still out there. So we here at in the war room on the A Gamer Looks at 40 floor, a few of my cactars have already gone home. They've given up. They've said, you know what, forget it.
You have your main villain. Remember, you chose Kefka.
True, right? And I kind of want to choose my secondary as well, but
okay.
My secondary, because everyone's already picked their secondary, but Megan hasn't picked her main yet. And I'm concerned she's going to take what I would like for my secondary.
Yep,
so,
that's the trick.
Yeah.
Main and secondary villain come from the same pool just to add a little bit of spice. I get you.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just play it safe, and imagine this pairing for a main and secondary villain. I am taking as my secondary Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII.
That was it.
because the juxtaposition between Kefka's gleeful nihilism and Sephiroth's moody emo nature, it's just gonna be very interesting to see the two play off of each other. And I think sparks are gonna fly in my enemy war room. So I'm taking Sephiroth as my secondary villain in this round.
I've always teased the idea of Sephiroth backing up Kefka, just as the example when I try to explain the draft to people, and it's finally happened. It took 3 years, but it's finally happened. Sephiroth backing up Kefka. What a wild time to be alive.
What a time to be a Final Fantasy fan when you have those two giants paired up. I just think it'd be fun from a story perspective. They would not work well together, and I think that would create a lot of really interesting story beats. So
I could
that's
see
kind
that.
of where I'm leaning with that.
I could see that. All right, but you're also opening up round 10 for us.
Yeah, so it was round 10. Man, this is again, I'm getting to the point where I am waffling back and forth between different things. I know what I want to pick, but I'm just trying to be strategic about when I do it. I'm gonna go with plot twist though. Plot twist
Okay.
for me, I think, let's be honest, there's nothing better when two worlds merge, and that is what I am going to be using for mine. Two worlds merging will be the plot twist I select for my game.
That's how we get Kefka and Sephiroth as dual villains. There we go.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So it's going to be a strange thing in the world of Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
This is going to be a odd one, but I think I like where I'm going with this.
You know, maybe I'm jinxing it and it'll happen this draft anyway. I'm still waiting for the day that someone picks that all the characters grew up in the same orphanage as their plot twist. I'm just waiting for it. Actually, did that happen? Because I'm second guessing myself because Sebastian's draft last year was bonkers, and I don't know what he picked for his plot twist. Let me double check on that.
I think he might have.
No,
Vaguely.
his plot twist was villain is a parent.
Oh, that's right.
The main villain is actually the parent of one of the main characters, and I forget which main character he chose because remember he had General Leo as one of his characters. He had a wild draft. If y'all have not listened to last year's draft, it's once you finish listening to this one, of course, go back and check that one out. But I'm just waiting for it. You know, everyone's going to grow up in the same orphanage at some point. But Megan, over to you. Will your characters grow up in the same orphanage, or are you picking a different something else or a different category?
I want to pick a different category because I got to think about that one.
I don't blame you.
There's a lot going on. You know what? I am not good at mini games, so I better lock in my mini game now, which is maybe controversial, maybe not. But since I suck at card games, I'm just going to pick Blitzball from Final Fantasy X, which I initially hated because it involves the lightest of math. And I was like, no math. But then the second time I played the game, I was like, no, I'm going to buckle down and get decent at this game. And it ended up being really addicting. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Blitzball.
It's a great pick. I love me some Blitzball. I would just play Blitzball. A sports game where you don't need to be coordinated. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's great.
I've been meaning every time I replay Final Fantasy X, I keep being like, this is the time I'm actually going to dedicate like 2 hours or something just to understand Blitzball. And then I never do it. I really should try it at some point. But an early minigame pick, I like it. Blitzball's a good choice. Moving over to Dave for your 10th round pick.
Yeah, so I was also going to pick a mini game, and my heart jumped up into my throat when I heard Megan say that we're picking a mini game. I was not going to pick Blitzball though. I waffle every time I play 10. My opinion changes. I hate it, then I love it, then I hate it. I'm back to loving Blitzball. It rules. So for my mini game, I'm going to take what I think is the best mini game on the board, and that's Queen's Blood from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I do love a card game, and this is a series that has had mixed success with card games, but this one rules. I love Queen's Blood. I did all the quests, every battle in 7 Rebirth, despite complaining at the same time about the amount of side content. I was also doing all the Queen's Blood. So I love it. Give me that for my game. And again, picture in your head, I picked the funniest protagonist to do basically anything. So picture Jack playing cards, and there we go.
He seems like a cigar and cards, like poker player type of dude, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he's probably wearing sunglasses inside for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And listening to Limp Bizkit, it's all good.
Yeah, that is good card playing music.
Rolling, 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 rolling. See, I still have yet to play Final Fantasy Origins. I know it's one of your favorites, Dave. So when I inevitably cover it on the show, I will have to ask you on for that episode.
I am ready. I'm not going to leave this chair until it happens.
You sit there and you play that whole game in front of me, Josh. And just as a reminder for the listeners, the mini game category is the only category that I've allowed to go outside of the mainline Final Fantasy series without having to use a flex. That's new for this year. Who knows if I'll change it back next year? Who knows? I try to change things up at least a little bit each year, or I'm going to try to. So, all right, Adam, closing out round 10 and beginning round 11.
Oh, well, since we're going mini game, I might as well take mine as well. And there are a lot of really good choices here. I was initially thinking about doing the beach battle from Crystal Bearers because you have to like knock people into the water using your butt. And that's kind of fun. That's camp. We love that. But
come on, Adam. You want to. I know you want to.
No. I'm going to go for the next best option, which is the... oh, that's the spot. LeBlanc massage.
I fucking knew it.
I knew it. Yeah.
As soon as with everything that you've been doing in your draft, I'm like, he's going to go for the massage, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, if only Final Fantasy VII Remake had a massage as a minigame. I know it's in there, but is it a minigame? I don't think so.
It's been like 4 years since or however many years
you would have seen people thirsty on Twitter about it if it wasn't.
Yeah. I remember Cloud gets a massage, but I don't remember it being an interactive experience. But I remember a very interactive experience with LeBlanc, so that's the way to go. And I also love the bone cracking sounds when you get it wrong. That just makes me cackle. So yeah, Kuja's going to be giving some massages. That's what we're doing. And I hope he's not actually in a jockstrap because he might accidentally leave some chocolate kisses on their back.
Oh my God.
Good Lord.
Okay, sorry. You can edit that out.
So is Kuja massaging Gladiolus then? Is that what's happening?
Maybe. Or maybe it's Ultimecia. Maybe he needs to infiltrate her castle and the only way to get her to go to sleep is to give her a massage.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, that's staying in, Adam, and your 11th pick.
God, I'm so embarrassed.
No, it's fine.
So for the 11th round pick, I am going to go with vehicle, and I'm going to go.
I'm sorry.
Vehicle, airship, whatever.
Okay.
Is that my accent? You can't understand my accent?
No. I was like not yawning. I was like moving my head and my earbud popped out right when you said it.
Okay, we're going to pick an automobile and we're going to go down the white chicks route. And I'm going to pick the Regalia because it's a car. It's a very nice car. It's a convertible, just like white chicks. And you get to pick what's on the radio. And Kuja and the gang are going to be driving down the road, going, making my way downtown, walking fast. So that's the angle I'm going for.
Homebound.
Yeah. Then Terry Crews will rock up, and then we're going to have a fun time.
It's going to be a great time. I love this.
Yeah.
I'm digging this so far. Okay. So, Dave, over to you for your 11th round pick.
Okay. So let's see. I feel like I picked a lot of plot twist. That's the other one I need for my game. And Josh, I swear to God, even before you said this was what I was going to pick because it would be very funny.
Oh my God, you're doing it.
So all my characters grew up in the same orphanage.
Yeah, it's finally happened. My entire meaning for existence is here.
Let's go.
And I promise, even before you brought this up, wishing it, putting that out into the ether, this was the one all along as soon as I saw it on the list.
I know you are a person of your word, so I'm grateful for this, that it's finally happening. Everyone can grow up in the same orphanage together. What a wonderful world.
Jack, Vivi, Lulu, Jack, Sin, and Chaos. if we're including everybody, and the mystery fourth party member that I haven't drafted yet. So when I make that pick, I'll remind everyone it's going to be revealed eventually they all grew up together.
Oh my God. I love this so much. Oh my. All right. So Megan, over to you for your 11th round pick.
I'm going to lock in a soundtrack. Initially, I was going to say Final Fantasy 14. I mean, Kasoken does have some original songs, like Into the Balance and Wayward Daughter have been both vying for attention in my head for like 3 days now. But I'm going to do something a little different because I love, love, love dance music. And I just love that sort of beat. So I'm going to put as my soundtrack 13-2.
Okay. I think, did I have that on? Yeah.
Because
Hold
Final
on.
Fantasy 13 is in 3 parts, so it does count as a main game.
Oh, you know what? That you have petitioned the commissioner efficiently. That you've convinced me. That'll do it. I wouldn't have thought about it in like 3 parts, but I think I don't know why I can't seem to find it on my list. There it is. 13. You said 2, right?
Yeah, 13-2. It's got an amazing soundtrack.
I support this decision.
That is a good pick. I would not have thought about that. I might have to think about how I will implement that in future drafts, but you make a good argument. Final Fantasy 13-2 is the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I need to play that game as well. See,
It has no business being as good as it is, by the way. Like the plot is complete gobbledygook and makes no sense. But everything about it, like the combat system, the voice acting, the music, the visuals, it's amazing.
That by this logic, technically, for anyone who has not picked any things that are like battle system music or whatnot, I guess 13 could technically span across different things. You could do 13-2 or is 13-3 Lightning Returns?
Yeah.
Okay. I might have to change that for next year, but for now, I think that is a good loophole to look into. Just like Palom and Porum for Bill over there. So, Bill, your 11th round pick.
Yep. And with my 11th round pick, I think I finally need to round out my party. I think I need to kind of just get this done. And while, again, I am choosing this particular, I'm not trying to troll or anything, but it's another character that people don't particularly seem to like very much. I don't understand why. And it's also because my party needs a lot of variety. I need an animal and an animal in my party. An animal must be recognized. I have a little kitten and I have a little puppy. And we just got both of these animals very recently. And in honor of my black Maine Coon Poe, and she's not named after Star Wars Poe and not Kung Fu Panda Poe, after Edgar Allan Poe, because we're literary people. After my little black Maine Coon kitty who tried to sabotage this show by turning off my computer midstream, I'm going to go with Kate Sith as my final party member for Final Fantasy VII.
Huh.
And I like Kate Sith because they have I like the randomness element to it, and it actually can be very powerfully used properly. Kate Sith can actually own if used properly. So I wanted a really diverse main party, and I think Kate Sith rounds that out very nicely.
I'm not going to lie. So I did an episode years ago where I had a bunch of guests ranking Final Fantasy VII characters. And the way that I organize when I do ranking episodes, which I haven't been able to do one in a while, is that as you're ranking them, the panel cannot discuss that character until everyone has announced them on their list.
Okay.
And Kate Sith made it a lot higher than was Kate Sith. I think Kate Sith might have been the bottom for everyone's list. So it was like out in the first round. Surprisingly though, Yuffie, who because this was before Rebirth came out. I know I have not played Yuffie, integrate in with Rebirth. So I don't know what they do to change your character in that, but almost everyone put Yuffie as like the second to last, except for one person who brought her up to like the number 2 overall spot on their list. So we were waiting like 4 or 5 rounds just to, of people listing off their rankings until we finally could discuss Yuffie. And I was just in shock that someone put her so high.
Yuffie
Pe-
is amazing.
the people bag on Kate Sith, and I don't know. I think he's adorable. It's a little kitty cat on a giant stuffed mog. How could you not love that? I don't know. I think I'm the only one here, and I know I could have probably waited forever for that, but I just want to lock that in case I was not alone in that fandom.
Would
You're
have
not
been
alone.
a great character to go inside of Sin, so thanks a lot, Bill.
That was great. That would have been great. And now I don't think you can use it for a summon either.
Nope.
Yeah. Which Kate said is actually one of the worst summons. That's not a good one.
Wait,
But
how is she? Oh, she's a summon in what, Rebirth?
in 6 too. 6.
Wait,
Pretty
Kate
sure.
Sith is a summon in 6?
I'm pretty confident. I may be wrong.
I think so.
You know what? I don't know. All right. I heard someone else about to jump in and fight against my Yuffie slander. Did I hear that correctly?
Oh yeah, sorry, that was me. I was just saying I love Yuffie.
Oh, okay.
She's fantastic.
Fair enough. Bill, your 12th round pick.
I keep forgetting I'm doing 2 in a row. I need to actually. I spent so much time thinking about Kate Sith. I didn't think about my number 12. I keep forgetting. This snake thing is weird. I'm used to like a draft where you take a where it's actually a line. Quick note: Kate Sith is a summon in 6, but it's called Stray. But it is very clearly a cat, a black cat. It is kind of sort of Kate Sith. It's not named Kate Sith, but it is a summon in Final Fantasy 6 called Stray.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, let's go with vehicle. I think a vehicle is going to be important in my game. And to be perfectly honest, this has no rhyme or reason to the game as a whole. I just love this vehicle. And I think if you're going to pick out of all of the great vehicles that have been in a Final Fantasy game, if you're not picking the Lunar Whale, I'm not sure if you've ever
that was going to be mine.
See, we have connected here, Megan. We have. Lunar Whale is so good that I actually want to start playing 14 again. Once I found out you can get a Lunar Whale in 14, I know. I stopped playing it at Realm Reborn, and I was obsessed for 6 months, and that was the end of it. I had to put it down, and I haven't touched it in years and years and years. And once I found out a Lunar Whale is available as a mount, I'm like, damn it. Damn, I gotta go back and start this game again.
We are the same because Shadowbringers, was it Shadowbringers or Endwalker? I think it was Endwalker has the Final Fantasy IV theme. So I was like, finally, I gotta go back. I started A Realm Reborn like twice and couldn't get into it. And then like, oh man, Endwalker has like a Final Fantasy IV like go to the moon thing. And that's what pushed me forward, and it is so worth it.
Yeah, so that's my pick for vehicle. I'm cruising around in a giant lunar whale while all y'all are poodling around in your airships and your 57 Chevelles or whatever else you're doing. I'm rocking the whale.
You're not invited in my road trip. On my road trip.
Hearing both yours, Megan, and yours, Bill, love for Final Fantasy IV, I might have to do an episode on Final Fantasy IV soon. I've been a little RPG'd out for, I think I was talking to Dave about it a while ago, how like I did Toriyama month like a month ago or so. So I played Dragon Quest 1 through 3 while also playing Chrono Trigger. And at the end, I was also doing I got a review code for like an indie RPG called Grand Soul Story. So I just was playing like 5 RPGs over the course of like 3 months. And I just, at the end of it, I'm like, I just need a shooter right now. I'm so tired of seeing menus.
Well, I gotta say, and this is my quick thesis on Final Fantasy IV, is it's the most efficient storytelling in the entire series. And I think it's definitely a easy top 5 for me. Maybe a top 3 based on the day. I'm not sure. I'd have to really give it some thought.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's just an efficient game, and it's like 20 hours. Maybe it flies by. The pacing is actually, I think, perfect. It's one of the best paced Final Fantasy games. Definitely, if you're feeling that bloat, it's not that. I apologize for the dog. She needs to go out.
No, it's all good.
But
okay.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, Megan, over to you for your 12th round pick.
Well, speaking of puppies and speaking of ways to get around, you may keep your fancy drop top and your Luna whale because I'm going to be riding around in my fat chocobo. That's my vehicle pick. And yes, you can ride a fat chocobo in Final Fantasy 14. And I remember the first time I came across one in Final Fantasy 4, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I think in that you can't do it. You can only like store some of your gear, but you can get a mount in Final Fantasy XIV, and that's the Fat Chocobo, and it's really cute.
All right. So you're going to fit your entire party on a single chocobo.
It's huge.
It is a big chocobo, to be fair.
And, Yuna and Vidia can just summon, flying like Bahamut or, something like that, or Valefor, and go flying off on their own. So it would just be Cecil and Emmett Selk.
that old ragtag crew.
Yeah, exactly.
On a
Gilgamesh can
chocobo.
walk; he'll be fine.
Dave, over to you for your 12th round pick.
Okay, so with my 12th round pick, I think I'm going to finish out the party. I need a 4th party member, and there's a lot of really great characters on here. So do I go with party makeup? Do I go with personality? Do I want someone with a strong personality who can butt heads with Jack, or someone a bit more sensitive? And I think I'm going to pick someone who can do both of those things. A very strong personality, but someone with a very tender side to them, and also just an extremely cool character. And I'm picking Barrett from Final Fantasy VII for
Ooh.
my 4th party spot. So my complete party of 4 is Jack, Lulu, Vivi, and Barrett.
I'm just picturing, like I said, I've not played Strangers of Paradise or Paradise, whatever it is. But based off how you're describing Jack, I feel like him and Barrett are going to be an interesting pairing.
Interesting for sure. It's like how, Barrett like doesn't take shit from Cloud, but Jack is way more stubborn than Cloud is. So it's definitely going to be interesting. We'll make for some good drama.
I like it. All right, Adam, over to you for your 12th pick, and then you're also to begin round 13.
Okay, so can I just say that I'm so happy that nobody has picked Cloud as a main character? That's like, that makes me so happy, because it's almost like the most default obvious answer. So I'm going to pick Cloud. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm going to go with main party member. I'm going to round out my party, and I'm going to pick the MVP, the best character that everybody has overlooked for decades. And that character is Quina from Final Fantasy IX.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, Quina, I think, gets a little bit overlooked. He, she, they is a genderless member of the, I don't know if it's pronounced Q or Ku tribe or whatever it is. They're basically a species that do not have a gender. And in this whole party, what's the word I'm thinking of? Interaction. God, somebody help me out here.
Chemistry,
That's
team chemistry.
dynamic.
Thank you so much. This
You're
whole
welcome.
team chemistry. I've gone for people who have somewhat of an identity crisis, or have very specific identities. So the idea is that, like, Kuja is he's basically a drag queen. He wears nails. He's got false nails. He's a drag queen. Faris is tossing up between the, being a man.
Well, not to cut you off, but I feel like you should save this for when you pitch
Sorry.
to the audience. No, it's okay. I want that way you can finish your picks out and then combine it all together for your final pitch to the audience.
Okay. Well, long story short, Quina is somebody that doesn't really conform to either or of the gender spectrum. So that's where I'm coming from with picking them. And I'm very happy about it. So you guys should be jealous.
I like it.
Also, one of the more relatable Final Fantasy characters, where all they want to do is eat.
Exactly.
Just want yummy food. That's it.
Yeah. Just want some frogs.
They're basically Lickitung, but in Final Fantasy form.
That's true.
Okay, so for the 13th round pick, I'm going to lock in my soundtrack. And
all right.
I know I've picked a few from this numbered entry already, but I kind of have to do it because I love it so much, and that is the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack.
That's a good pick.
I love
it's really
Final
good.
Fantasy IX soundtrack.
It is gorgeous. I love the Dark Messenger theme, like Kuja's themes, all of that stuff. Beatrix's theme was the first song I ever learned how to play by ear on piano. And then I gave up playing piano, so it's the only song I know how to play. But yeah, it's just a beautiful soundtrack, and it will fit very nicely into my little conglomeration of different things.
Final Fantasy 9. So when I did actually Dave here was on one of the episodes. Last year I did the Winter of Final Fantasy. I did Final Fantasy 9, 8, and 7 in that order, and there's a weirdly specific reason. You have to listen to the episodes to hear why. But I closed out it where I did like a little like scripted thing as to like what those games meant to me, and I used the Final Fantasy IX's version of the theme because I just love that soundtrack so much. It's
so good.
It gets me in the feels every single time. It's so good. But all right, Dave, over to you for your 13th pick.
Okay, so time for a little bit of strategy here. So
Strategy.
everyone else has a vehicle, everyone else has a SID, so I don't really need to worry about those. I still need those. I need a summon, and I need an ultra boss. There are 10 million summons on the list, so I don't feel like I need to blow this pick on that. So I'm going to pick an ultra boss for my game. And here's the thing. I don't fight ultra bosses, ever. I have never fought any of these on the list. Even in my favorite games, I couldn't name the ultra boss. I just don't care. But people who might want to play my game, they might care. So I am going to just take...
Good point.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the most famous ultra bosses from the series and stick them on the back of the box, and that's Emerald and Ruby Weapon from Final Fantasy VII. Again, did not fight them, will never fight them, but someone who might play my game, they might care. So give me those weapons. Let people grind. Let people build out their characters with the sphere grid in my game, and they'll have to take down those weapons.
Okay. Yeah, I think the only ultra boss I've ever beaten is Omega Weapon from Final Fantasy VIII. And even then, I think I just cheesed it where I used a guide to find where all the aura spells were. And so I would have like 100 auras. I didn't junction it to anything. I just cast it on my party members so they constantly have their limit break. So Selphie would just always heal everyone the entire time with her full heal, and then Squall would just use Renzo Kukin like a maniac through and just blow away. I also had like their ultimate weapon, so like his Renzo Kukin did like a shitload of damage for each one. But all right, Megan, over to you, your 13th pick.
So when we talk about plot twist, does main character die count?
What do I have in plot twist?
What do you have in plot twist, just so I know?
It is
Like, or unexpected death.
yes, a main party member dies. Yep, that is on there.
Okay, you might think the one I'm going for, but I'm actually going.
You don't even have to tell us. Save it for the end when you pitch it.
Okay, I'm going to pick though. Can I use do I have flex or anything left? Because I'm going to pick slightly out of the main.
If you do not want to use your limit break, yeah, you can use a flex.
Okay, because I wanted to give a shout out to Final Fantasy Tactics.
Ooh.
The ending really shocked me. I was confused by it. I was like, wait, what? What happened? And that's all I'm going to say.
If you could, I mean, because there is like, we already have plot twists for this. What if you could summarize it without spoiling any of the characters? What is the plot twist for?
If I remember this correctly, and I'll double check this because it's been a while, but it's like I want to say it's like a murder suicide.
Okay.
At the
murder
end.
suicide. I'm writing murder suicide into our draft pool.
I think that's what it is. You guys can keep going. I'll just sort of autocorrect. But I just remember the ending was like, what just happened?
Very Romeo and Juliet almost. Well, that's a duel, whatever. But murder suicide. Okay, yeah, that is not on the list, so that would be an appropriate flex. There we go. Let me put that on here. I'm excited to see which character you are choosing for this. This is going to, I can't. My favorite part of the entire draft, other than hearing people's frustration over picks getting taken, is when everything comes to an end and I see how all of you can find a way to contort your picks into some cohesive narrative or game pitch. I can't wait. All right. Bill, over to you. Round 13 and beginning round 14.
Round 13 and round 14. We're getting to the late rounds where I can just take sentimental picks. It's kind of, I'm a big hockey fan. I'm a fan of the New Jersey Devils hockey team. And a
You
few
would
years
be.
ago, why do you say that, sir?
I'm a Flyers fan.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Well,
No,
a few
no.
years, this fine. The Flyers are fine. If you were to say Rangers, then we'd be
Then
there might be
we coming to blows. No, I'm just kidding.
slight beef, but it's perfectly fine. Slight beef. A few years back, the New Jersey Devils selected Martin Brodeur's son, like in the 7th round, as a goalie with no intention to ever play a lick of NHL hockey, and I don't think he ever did. But I like these. Like, we're getting to the point where we can do sentimental picks, and I think I'm at that point now with my selection here. So I'm going to be going with my first pick for my pick for this. We're in round 13 now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for mini game. And honestly, I don't really love Final Fantasy mini games. I have a few I enjoy. I love Blitzball. So I think I just may have to pick my second favorite on the list, and I'm gonna go with snowboarding in Final Fantasy VII. Because hey, snowboarding is fun, and if my game works out to the way I'm thinking, I'll save it for the I'll save it for the pitch.
I was just gonna say snowboarding perfect for after whatever your plot twist is.
Yes, exactly. After that major plot twist, let's all enjoy a nice stream down the mountain. Why not? Yeah, I'm going to do snowboarding from Final Fantasy VII for my mini game because snowboarding is innately fun because it's a really hard thing to do in real life. That's relatively easy to do on a video game. So that's it.
Snowboarding reminds me. Quick shout out to friends of the show, Rockman Cosmo and Naoya Shinoda. They are the feature phone game preservationists. They actually recently dumped the feature phones, the Japanese games that like kind of, there was a Kingdom Hearts game that was on there, or that did come anyway. I'm getting lost in the weeds. They preserved the phone version of Final Fantasy VII Snowboarding that only came out in Japan on Japanese phones.
Wow.
Nice.
That's really cool, actually. That's really cool.
Isn't that wild? I don't know if they've announced it yet. So maybe when this comes out, I might have to cut this out. But I think they've announced something. But anyway, all right, Bill, you also get the 14th pick.
Now, this pick, as I'm saying, these are now sentimental picks. The sentimental pick for this round is in honor of my team that I brought with me here today to the draft floor to just help me make these selections and fail epically at selections. So I'm going to go with summon, and my summon is going to be Cactar because I got about 5 of them right now pointing their needles at me, and I better, or else it's not going to end. We're not making it to 16 or 15. So, yeah, we're going to do Cactar for my summon. 1,000 needles.
All right.
Let's go.
The only thing that sucks about I might have to, I might take some opinions from y'all after the draft is over. I might have to find some way to pare down this summon list, because the summon list is huge, and I feel like making it a little bit smaller might incentivize some more competition. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's fair.
But all right, so we have Cactar here as your summon. Megan, back to you for your 14th pick.
Okay, just to clarify my last pick, it's kind of a murder suicide. It's almost like 2 people basically kill each other. It's hard to explain without spoiling it, but I just wanted to clarify that in case someone in the audience is like, "Well, that's actually not what happened," and I'm like, "Well," but at any rate, let's see what I have left. World setting, battle system, and main villain. I'm going to do. I think for world setting, again, we're taking it back to Final Fantasy IV. You've got a beautiful overworld, and then you can actually travel underground and then also to the moon. So it's this very complete world setting. And it's just very beautiful. So I'm going to say Final Fantasy IV.
That is a great pick. that what is it? When you go to the moon in that game, I was so the first time I played, I was like, what's happening right
Yeah,
now?
it's wild. It just blows your mind as a kid. I'm like, whoa.
That's I love it. Dave, your 14th pick.
So I need a summon. It's the only one that other people can still pick. So I need to pick one. Again, there's a ton of them. And just real quick, my idea for paring down the summon list is like maybe they have to have like a minimum number of games that they appear in, because a lot of them do come back in lots of games. But all that being said, I'm picking Bahamut as my summon. Bahamut's my favorite summon.
Yay.
The Mega Flare is one of the coolest attacks, and Bahamut's in a bunch of the games too. So it's not one of the special ones that's only in one game. So yeah, and the Bahamut fight in Final Fantasy 16 is like the coolest thing I've ever done in a video game. So give me Bahamut.
What I could probably do for these summons list. I know I'm kind of pontificating out loud in the middle of the episode on something that might happen in the future. I might do in the future is like pick a handful of the summons that appear in every game. You know, your Ifrits, Shivas, Chocobo, Odin, stuff like that, or in a lot of the games, and then I could put it over to the panelists to like give me a list of like 2 of their favorite summons, and that would round. And obviously, if some double up, then I only use it once. But yeah, something like that. I don't know. That just thinking out loud. But Adam, your 14th pick.
I'm personally glad that you haven't pared down the summons, because I'm going to go for a special pick that nobody else will pick. Which
Okay.
is one that probably hasn't appeared in that many games, and I'm going to go for Seraph.
Seraph. I don't even. Which one is that?
It's on your list.
Oh no, I believe you. I'm just asking like what game it's from.
It's from Final Fantasy 6 and 14, and it's basically like an angel that heals the party members.
Okay.
They're really pretty. It's a very pretty summon. That's actually an excellent
it's a really pretty animation.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. That's actually a very good pick.
Yeah, so I'm thinking I need some healing from my summon, and the wings motif will go very well with those feathers in Kuja's hair.
There you go.
Oh, well, and you're also up now to your 15th pick, Adam. So go ahead.
Okay, so this is the one that I've been indecisive on for a little bit. Actually, wait, what have I got left? World setting and
Ultra Boss are your last 2.
Okay, so I'm still indecisive on world setting, so I'll leave that. And for Ultra Boss, I could not care less. So let's go.
Luckily for you, you don't have to worry, because all the world and setting has been chosen by everyone else, and the Ultra Boss has also already been chosen by everyone else. So no one can possibly steal either of those picks from you.
Yeah, they're also the least that I care about. Oh, actually, that's not true. I do care about world setting. I'm just indecisive. But for Ultra Boss, I think I'll go for Yasmat. Yasmat? Is that how you say it?
Yeah. I said Yasmat earlier, but I think it's Yasmat.
Oh, either way, the Final Fantasy 12 Ultra Boss that takes like 6 hours or something to beat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's got like 12 million HP or something. So let's go for that, because I'm imagining my party members just for 12 hours changing their outfits nonstop to use abilities. That would be a fierce fashion show.
That is bringing a new meaning to like Australia's Next Top Model.
Yeah. Oh God, I love that.
All right, Dave, for your 15th pick.
Okay, so I just have my pick of vehicles and SIDS because everyone else has taken them. So I will take the vehicle. I think some of the best ones are off the board already. So just give me, you know what? I'm going to do a little combo. So give me the Hildegard from Final Fantasy IX as my vehicle. And then I'll let you all guess what SID I'm going to take when my turn comes back.
Cindy.
Okay, Megan, over to you for round 15.
Okay, so I think I'm going to go with the battle system, and I'm going to pick an unusual one because a lot of people didn't like it. I liked it. The command synergy battle system from Final Fantasy 13, which is sort of an evolution of the active time battle system that was first introduced in Final Fantasy 4. So like you can put in things manually, but you also have like an auto battle system that you can rely on as well. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty fun, so I'll go with that because everyone took all my other stuff.
That's what it always is. I
We
always
all
like
were going to pick the dress sphere system. Let's be honest, it was all about Final Fantasy X too that way.
really
everyone wanted
was.
that dress sphere system, man.
Totally.
I need
famous.
this is just telling me I need to actually play through 10 too, because I own both the HD port of it and the original, so I should
Well,
pick one of them.
you don't need to, but
No, I need to. This has now been decided, Adam.
okay.
All right, Bill, you are making your final two picks, closing out round 15 and beginning round 16.
Yeah, so we'll just close them out. So my next pick is going to be Battle System. 'Cause I only have Battle System and console left. So Battle System, I don't believe it's been taken yet. It is not. I'm going to go with the Final Fantasy VII Battle System. It's one of the most. Not only is it offers a ton of flexibility, which is important for my team because I really want this game to be character focused and not as job focused. It offers that flexibility. Plus, it's very easy to figure out and hard to master. So I really love the Final Fantasy VII battle system. It's extremely elegant. Plus, it's turn-based, so I'm an old head, so I have to dig that. So Final Fantasy VII battle system is for me. And my console, it's funny. I was going to go with SNES, but I think for the game that I'm trying to create here, I am going to go with the PS3.
Okay.
Simply because all the other ones were picked. I was going to go PS5 initially because again, I wanted to have as much freedom to do what I wanted. And then my next pick was going to be SNES because I do think my game might be pixel art anyway. But I think PS3 is going to give me the best of both worlds, gives me flexibility, and that's just going to go with that.
Okay, I like it. So, Bill, your draft is entirely done. Megan, let's finish off yours, round 16.
Hold on, I'm looking up the name because I'm blanking. So the final boss in Final Fantasy IV, I think its name is Zeromos. So Zeromos is
Yes.
the final boss with a really, really awesome soundtrack to go with that final boss battle. I just remember it's like the first real boss battle. I was like, oh, this is intense. So, yep, that's my pick.
For your main villain, I believe,
For
right?
my main villain. Yeah, remember my second villain is Gilgamesh, and no one can take him from me.
There we go, Zeromos, for your main villain. Okay, Dave, your final pick.
Okay, so all I have left on the board is a Sid, and then my flex pick for the character inside of Sin. So for Sid, I am going to take Sid from Final Fantasy IX, specifically when he's in the Oglop form.
Yep.
I think that would be funny. I would like to see my main party roll up and talk to him. And then for my flex pick, as promised, I'm going to remove Jekt from inside of Sin. And I thought about this. I thought, okay, what would be a funny character to put in there? Like the party spends a lot of the game going up against Sin, being like, what's behind this? And you learn there's a person in there. Do I pick a funny character? It would have been funny for Kate Sith or Kina to be in there, but those are off the board. So then the other thing is we could punish a character by putting them inside of Sin, remove them from the rest of the world. They're just inside of Sin. So Cloud from Final Fantasy VII is going inside of Sin.
That's really good.
That's excellent. Oh, Cloud. Poor Cloud. That's amazing.
He goes in timeout. He goes in Sin.
Exactly. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. And then at the end, we'll figure it out. We'll get him out. But after he serves his time in timeout. Yeah.
Do you really does he have to though? I mean, that's really great. I really
that would
find
be
that's very funny.
Would be a nice little point of discussion with the party. Like, do we end the cycle of destruction? But if we do that, Cloud's going to be released from there. So then we'll have to talk to him.
And no one wants that. Oh, that's really funny. What a wild. Okay. Adam. Your final pick, the final pick of the entire draft.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay.
So for world setting, say for example, I pick something, but I'll just use this as an example. It's not my actual pick, but Final Fantasy 12. Since that only takes place in a very small portion of a much larger country, am I limited to the only parts that are in that game, or can
Yeah,
we?
But it
it's
takes place in
whatever.
Evilise, so all of Evilise counts.
Yeah, but you only ever get to visit that one small country.
Because that would completely break the setting at that point, because then you would get Final Fantasy Tactics in that as well,
Yeah.
Right.
which would technically be a flex pick. It's limited to what's in the game.
Okay, that's tough. Let's see. Okay, I'm tossing up between. Oh God. All right, I was going to go with 13 because Grand Pulse is such a large place that I'm sure that there's a lot of other unexplored areas that would tie into my game, but seeing as though it's limited to what's in the game, I'll go for the ye old England Final Fantasy 16.
Okay. Final Fantasy 16 is the final pick of the draft here.
Yeah.
The what we're going to do here is real quick, just as a reminder for everyone, I'm going to read off the first 4 picks just so we can see how we began. The first overall pick was Kuja, followed by Jack from Final Fantasy Origins, followed by Cecil, and followed by the soundtrack for Final Fantasy VI. So 3 main party members and a soundtrack, and we've ended with the world setting of Final Fantasy 16. This is going to be an interesting pitch to the audience. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have the panelists here. These wonderful panelists will pitch to you, the wonderful listener, their Final Fantasy. And we are back with the pitches. So, Adam, pitch to the audience here your Final Fantasy 16 draft, or 16, I'm sorry, Final Fantasy draft.
Okay, so my Final Fantasy is going to be starring Kuja, who was very much in need of a redemption. So in Final Fantasy IX, he was the angel of death that was sent down to kill everything, basically, in a nutshell. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he needed the opportunity, just like Zidane did in 9, to grow and become his own person. So in mine, he is dropped into the world of Final Fantasy 16, and he decides that maybe I'm not going to be evil. Maybe I'm going to be a good guy. And so he teams up with Faris and Gladiolus and Quina to form a band of merry misfits who all have issues expressing their identity and sexuality. Kuja is very much a feminine gay man, much like a dandy in the old, like, Edwardian Victorian eras of high society. He's a little bit feminine, he's a bit camp. He's trying to find himself. Faris cannot, or she has gender expression issues, being a woman growing up in a man's world, pretending to be a man, and she doesn't quite know where she fits on the spectrum. Gladiolus is going to be my archetypal masculine in the closet guy who is going to have a romance with the mechanic Sid Highwind, who will be fixing up the regalia. And Quina is someone who doesn't have a gender to begin with, so they're going to be an interesting point of view to be like, oh, I don't know what you guys are talking about because I don't have either and I'm fine. And everyone loves Quina, so well, at least they should. Now, on the opposite side of that, the villains who are going to be taking down our merry band of people is going to be Ultimecia, who is magically manipulating Ultima to destroy the world and take over everything. So her motivation is she just wants to be the fiercest queen in the world. And in Final Fantasy 16, we have all these warring kingdoms. She wants to be the queen of all queens and conquer the entire planet. And she's going to use Ultima to do that, who she ripped out of an alternate dimension. And that's her plan. And Kuja's like, well, we can't have that, because if that happens, then I can't put on a fashion show. So he goes around, collects dress spheres, and then the whole gang decide to dress up and battle the monsters that Ultimisia has let loose in the world of Final Fantasy 16 while rolling around in their regalia, singing along to Vanessa Carlson, 1,000 Miles, and also to the soundtrack to Final Fantasy 9. And they're going to summon Seraph to heal the party because she is an angel and Kuja is the angel of death, and he is going to summon the angel of healing because he has redeemed himself now. And that's best. Oh. And they're going to give massages along the way. Forgot about that bit.
What is the title of you? Like you can name it a number if you want to, but do you have a title for your Final Fantasy?
Final Fantasy Ultimisia's Drag Race. Yeah, that's the subtitle. Final Fantasy Ultimisia's Drag Race.
Okay, Ultimisia's Drag Race. Okay, Dave, your Final Fantasy draft. Pitch it to the audience. What do you got?
Okay, so this is a PS4 game. I guess I haven't really talked about the graphical style, but we can let me come around back to that. But PS4 game set in the world of Final Fantasy VI, this kind of steampunk but still fantasy mishmash world that we have going on. The protagonist of the story is, of course, Jack from Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. And Jack in the traveling party is along with Lulu from Final Fantasy X, Vivi from FF9, and Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. I think we have a really good combination of personalities that will lead to some conflict, some learning moments, some love, some lessons along the way. Even people who played Final Fantasy Origin will know that behind all the Limp Bizkit and the I don't give a fuck what your name is, there is more to Jack. So we'll get there in my game. Going up against the villains of Cloud inside of Sin, and then Chaos, of course, because that's kind of how the game begins. Jack's on a mission to kill Chaos. Chaos is a secondary villain. So there we go. And then we have the Final Fantasy X battle system. So we have, again, the best turn-based system in the series and the customization if you wish, if you don't want to hyper customize your characters, because this is something that I love. I love games that tell me what characters are. I don't need infinite build variety or build possibility. Final Fantasy X gives you both. You can go canon or you can choose your own. So there we go. And then the FF7 soundtrack, of course. And so we go through this story with our party. They butt heads. They learn lessons. They take down Chaos. They debate whether they want to let Cloud out of Sin or not, or whether it's better to have civilization destroyed every 10 years. I'm not sure which is better. That's up to the characters. But along the way, they're going to learn that they grew up in the same orphanage. Maybe after one of their big blow-ups, you've got Jack, you've got Lulu, you've got Barrett, they're butting heads. Vivi's like, guys, please, can we all we settle down, love each other? And then we learn that they all grew up in the same orphanage. The best possible plot twist for this group of characters. And along the way, we have Sid from FF9 in Oglop form. We have the airship from FF9. I think we've got a good game set up here. And I think Final Fantasy games, to me, the most important part, like Bill mentioned earlier, the soundtrack's got to hit, and you've got to be in with the characters. And I think I've picked a great group of characters. I think they're going to work really well together. Little bonus is it's actually going to be fun to play this game too with the FF10 battle system. So that's my game. And we call it Final Fantasy Origins.
Now, one last question for you before I throw it over to Megan. Is Cloud also from the same orphanage?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Everybody. Sid, Cloud, Bahamut, the Summon, they're all from the same orphanage.
I like it. I like it. Megan, your draft, pitch it.
All right. So Emmett Selk finds himself in a new world, a new reflection. It happens to be the world of Final Fantasy IV. He's completely lost. He has no idea what's going on. He's very irritated, but he comes across Cecil and Radia, who have just learned that Zeramos has been reborn on the moon, and he has recruited Gilgamesh to help him summon absolute virtue in order to take over the blue planet. So it'll be up to Emmett Selk and Cecil and Radia to stop him. On the way to figure out how can they do that, somebody took the lunar whale. How did they get to the moon? Well, they figure out that, wait a second, isn't there a Cid somewhere in the world who can help him? And it turns out to be Sidolphus Telamon, our Final Fantasy 16 pick. But they can't just go to him. They have to take a fat chocobo to win a blitzball game. And if they win the blitzball game, they can talk to Cid, who will tell them how to get to the moon. Along the way, they pick up Yuna from Final Fantasy X. She's also lost in the strange world, so they have to all go together, and they fight monsters using Final Fantasy XIII's evolution of the active time battle system to get to the blitzball game, and they win. But oh my god, there's like a murder suicide / double murder that happens, so they get sidetracked. But luckily Cid is okay, and he figures out how to get the fat chocobo to fly to the moon to stop absolute virtue from being summoned by everyone defeating Gilgamesh and Zeramus on the moon. And my Final Fantasy is called Final Fantasy Lunatic Mode.
Lunatic mode.
Because
Oh,
it's
wow.
lunar and also
That
it's
is
crazy.
that is a great pun right there. I love that. Okay, rounding it out, Bill, we're coming over to you. Your draft, pitch it to the audience.
All right, great. All right, ready? The world of Spira is enjoying an unprecedented calm. Sin is at bay, Blitzball is popular, and the Cloister of Trials are nothing but tourist attractions. But not all is well. Using cunning, guile, and his signature wicked cackle, the Clown Prince Kefka has risen to the title of Praetor of the New Yevon religion, and the evil emo kid Sephiroth usurped the ranks of the Machine faction. With 2/3 of the world embroiled in evil, only the legal team of Balthier, Terra, K, Palm, and Porum can help keep the now wild political climate of Spira from spiraling into economic and sociological turmoil. The core gameplay is in the style of Ace Attorney, where you can either represent New Yevon, the Machine faction, or a mysterious third party led by a crater diving badass named Cid in a series of courtroom battles. Select your legal team based on skill set, improve their stats via materia found in the world / case files. To not only, and I ran out of steam and time to write that, but the basic idea is that this is going to be an Ace Attorney style game with persona elements where your characters are going to perform based on, they're going to develop based on their personal interactions during a case and after a case. We're going to use the Final Fantasy VII battle system to do the upgrades with materia, and it's going to run on the PS3. So I do envision this though to be very much so Game Boy Advance style graphics. I'd really like to release it on Steam eventually. Cool. And there's going to be snowboarding. And the judge is always Cid. Cid is always the. No, sorry, I said yeah.
I think
he's right. He's the third party. Yeah, that's my pitch. But yeah, it's Ace Attorney game.
What would be the title of your game?
Final Fantasy Courtroom Core.
All right. Well, that you've heard it all, folks. Those are your 4 pitches. I will include a link in the show notes for what you can vote for who you feel has won this year's Final Fantasy Draft. I cannot thank my panelists enough for joining me on this episode. This was a wonderful time. I had so much fun doing this. Thank you all so much for joining me. But next, of course, is plugs. So for the plug section, where can the good people find you all? So Adam, we'll start with you. Where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
You can find me on my podcast Linktree, linktr.ee/goodbadbacklog. The podcast is The Good, the Bad, and the Backlog, but I'm also a main host of the King of Games on the Retro Hangover podcast. And if you're interested in that, you can find them at Linktree linktr.ee/retro hangover. Highly recommend that. That's basically it. But yeah, it's been so much fun. Really enjoyed it. And it's all a blur now. I don't know how it happened or how we got here. And I'm a little embarrassed. But,
You shouldn't be embarrassed. You were. I too want to play Ultimisia's Drag Race.
Okay, good. I hope someone out there that's listening can understand where I was going with that, even though I'm not as eloquent in delivering my pitch. But hey ho, there you go.
Dave, what about you? Where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
Yeah, so I am, again, the host of the Tales from the Backlog podcast. Every episode is a deep dive on one game in particular, usually not necessarily retro games, but not necessarily like the new release of the week either, whatever's in the middle there. And if you want, good places to start, Adam and I actually did an episode about Final Fantasy X too, which was a really good time.
We
I
did.
really loved that episode. So, topical for this one. Lots of other Final Fantasy episodes on the show. And Josh was on the show before for, a cousin to Final Fantasy, maybe even a sibling. My Chrono Trigger episode has Josh on it. So there's a couple Tales from the Backlog episodes you can check out. Again, every episode is no spoiler for a while. Then we warn you when the spoilers start, then full spoiler discussion after that. So anyone can listen to any episode that they're interested in. You can find me mostly, I think, on Twitter. My handle is at Real Dave Jackson. That's my Twitter. There's also a podcast Twitter for Tales from the Backlog at TFTBL Pod. And another plug for the Retro Hangover King of Games, which myself, Adam, and Josh are a part of. No Final Fantasy in 96, but who knows what might happen in the future. So lots of good stuff to check out. And Josh, thank you again for inviting me on for this. This was awesome.
Thank you for coming on, man. Always a pleasure. All right. And Megan, where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
Okay, so you can find History in Games on YouTube at History in Games. There's also a website at historyingames.com. I'm also on Twitter. I refuse to call it X.
Same.
Megan, MEGHAN _IGN for all the years that I worked at IGN, and Instagram at, what is it? What is my own? Okay, Celtic _Queen _Meg. And I hope to see you guys around. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you for being on the episode. Bill, last but certainly not least, where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
Oh, thanks, man. You can find me at agamerlooksat40.com, just agamerlooksat4040.com. That's my hub for everything. On the socials, I am mainly active on Twitter, but I'm also on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and all the other things that I can post stuff on. And and the Gamer Looks at 40, it's a nostalgic look at the history of games through the stories and recollections of the people that lived it. And it's everyone from friends and family to journalists and industry types and all sorts of podcasting types, people all just sharing stories about the games we love affected us and the stories behind that. I'm in the middle of a Final Fantasy series as we speak, so if you're a fan of this great franchise, then there are about, I think there's like 10, I don't know how many episodes we have already completed. It's a lot. I'm in the middle of a Final Fantasy 6 series as of this recording. So definitely check it out if you want to hear people talk about their introductions to that game, to that series. There's lots of interviews as well. So go to gamerlooksat40.com. That's where you can find all of my everything.
I highly recommend all of these shows, listeners. I've enjoyed every single one of them, so please go check them out. Once again, they will be in the show notes, as well as a link to the Google form that I use for voting. So you can vote for which one of these amazing drafts have won this year's Final Fantasy Draft. For myself, of course, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitch, all that stuff at Still Loading Pod. You can also go over to YouTube at Still Loading Podcast. If you want to support the show, please consider giving it a 5-star rating or review on whichever podcasting app you use. It pleases the algorithm gods, and hopefully it helps more people find the show. I don't know if it does, but it makes me feel warm and fuzzy, so why not? You can also go to patreon.com/stillloadingpod. For as little as $1, you can get voting rights to help guide the direction of the show. I do quarterly polls, which Adam guested on one of those episodes for Astral Chain. He guested on the for that quarterly poll, and at the time I'm recording this, and actually the episode won't be out yet, the newest winner was Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun was the winner of the newest one. So that is the next game that I'll be covering. That's a patron voted one. So if you'd also like to get to vote on future game topics, patreon.com/stillloadingpod for only $1 a month. There's also a $3 level. You'll get everything in the previous tier plus patron shout outs that you heard at the beginning of this episode. For $4 a month, you get all of that plus 2 mini bonus episodes. And for $5 a month, you get everything I mentioned prior, plus access to my monthly movie podcast. Currently, it is called Still Bonding, which is where me and a bunch of friends bond over 007, movie by movie. Though after the bond is over, it's going to become Still Family, which is a Fast and Furious podcast. So it's going to be a good time no matter what. And those episodes are long as hell, minimum 2.5 to 4 hours, give or take. So yeah, that's all over Still Loading, or patreon.com/stillloadingpod. But that's it. That's all the time I got for you today. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed this draft. I know I did. And I cannot thank my guests enough once again. So with all that said, listeners, thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.